Chapter 158. Quietly sneaking onto the ship, I managed to secure a safe spot. So, what should I do now? I need to sabotage the warp drive. This ship is part of the Star Union fleet. Once the battle is over, it will return to its original space station for repairs. If the warp drive malfunctions, we're done for. The warp drive, the pinnacle of hyper-scientific technology, is as delicate as an overloaded reactor. Failing warp navigation could strand the ship in an entirely unexpected place that could even be within a star. Failing a warp navigation in the game means instant death. Top-tier equipment and ships won't save you. I've been in that situation before, forced into a star during a battle with the Vortex once. It's likely to be similar in reality. It's an extreme case, but not impossible. We can't afford reckless moves unless it's an emergency. I attached the auxiliary organ to the wall inside the garbage processing chamber. Intermittent vibrations and a strong flow of energy were felt from the ship's side. The ship is in a difficult state to engage in combat due to heavy damage to the front rockets and hull. We'll probably retreat to the rear of the fleet to avoid the cult's attacks. We don't know when the battle will end, but it likely won't be long. That cyborg battleship we saw earlier. That ship, appearing more than 3 times the size of others, is a model I recognize. A Z2 class heavy battleship. Looks like it's been modified somewhat, though. Star Union battleships typically carry anti-ship torpedoes. Gremlin torpedoes. Among Star Union's inventions, this weapon stands out for its ability to corrode metals like a nanomachine. The Gremlin torpedoes loaded onto the battleship can specify the metal they consume. For instance, attacking with a Gremlin torpedo specified for Moonsilver will continue corroding until all Moonsilver in the vicinity is eradicated. And there's only one faction that uses Moonsilver to build ships around here. It can be fired during a battle without any issues. Its only drawbacks are its high cost and vulnerability to EMP. But the cult can't use imp. Unless they have skilled psychics on the level of number 26, or cult prophets. Defending against Gremlin torpedoes with regular shields is difficult. They'll probably aim for the Imperial battleship opportunistically. Firing a Gremlin torpedo will end the battle. Until then, we need to deal with the engine issue. The target is set. It's time to move. ZZZZZZZZZ, I'll be back soon. Where are you going? I want to come too. Together. Wait for both of us. Amorph. The big one has something to attend to? Something. ZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZ Yeah. Come back safely? Farewell. Watching the Mother of the Sky, embarrassed by her own words, was quite amusing, but time is of the essence. After telling the kids to rest, I crawled out of the garbage processing chamber. Normally, I'd move with them, but not this time. We have to move quietly, that's why. Everyone rampaging together is only safe after security is assured. Coming out of the processing chamber, I moved upside down, clinging to the ceiling. Despite numerous cameras in the corridor, they failed to detect my presence. The first sticking downwards due to the wind, a characteristic of unknown creature fur. If I were a cyborg, they would have been startled to see me, wouldn't they? They said it's a stealth effect to avoid detection by detection equipment or traits, but normal cyborgs should still be able to see me fine. Androids or drones might not, though. Let's experiment with that later. It's better not to run into anyone right now. With 8 arms and legs, I stuck closely to the ceiling, choosing paths where I couldn't sense android or drone movements. Luckily, most drones and androids seemed to be deployed for ship repairs, as there weren't many robots roaming the corridors. As I got closer to the engine room, I sensed a large movement in the distance. A walker. But I quickly reconsidered. The closer it got, the more certain I became that it wasn't a walker. To avoid it, I slipped away at a junction and hit against the corridor wall. Eventually, a spider-like machine appeared beyond the corridor. It had a human head and torso, but instead of arms and legs, it had 6 robotic legs attached where they should have been. A screamer, huh? The gruesome-looking screamer wheezed through tubes attached to its mouth. As chemical fluid was injected through the tubes into its body, cold sweat dripped incessantly. After scanning the corridor with bloodshot eyes, it clattered off with its 6 legs, leaving only a metallic skeleton behind. It smelled of sweat. I thought they might be cyborg soldiers, but they turned out to be screamers. Screamers are quite the creation, reflecting the tastes of space survival developers. In summary, they're akin to punishment units once operated by communist states. Instead of sending the worst criminals or anti-establishment figures to prison, Star Union turns them into screamers. Rather than waste individuals deemed useless to society for being potentially mechanical, they're repurposed into combat machines. Once turned into screamers, they lose all control over their bodies, becoming little more than puppets. They might as well be called biodrones. Once their sentence ends, they're supposedly restored to normal cyborgs, but most end up dead in battle before that happens. It's strange to see screamers in an elite fleet. From the machine assembly's perspective, since they're all criminals, they're not well organized into such good fleets. I heard there's a unit in the Star Union's elite forces consisting solely of screamers, but this ship isn't part of that unit. Let's be careful of screamers. They're not like androids and have significantly higher combat capabilities. They tear into enemies like rabid dogs. Dealing with them one by one like this is a nuisance. Later, I confirmed there were 2 more besides the one I encountered. Since screamers periodically roamed, I had to take a long detour to reach the engine room. It took longer than expected because of them, but it wasn't all wasted time. Let's consider we've familiarized ourselves with the ship's layout. I checked the necessary information for attacking the ship, such as the security level of communication facilities and the location of auxiliary terminals where propulsion output can be verified. After gathering information while bypassing them, I finally reached the upper level of the engine room. Why the upper level instead of the engine room? The reason is simple. It's too risky to go straight to the engine room. Being a military vessel, the security level of the engine room is incomparable to that of research vessels that we have encountered so far. The most important facility on this ship is guarded by 10 heavily armed androids and 20 combat drones. They tirelessly monitor and guard against unauthorized intruders, turning them into bee-like hives without a moment's rest. Moreover, various types of sensors are installed throughout the corridor leading to the engine room. While unknown creature fur may not trigger the cameras, it could trigger motion sensors detecting vibrations. So, I've decided not to directly assault the engine room. Just need to disable other things essential for engine operation. For instance, the cooling system or circuits that supply energy from the reactor, etc. After adjusting the direction of cameras installed above the corridor, I leapt down to the floor. Landing silently, I immediately crawled close and pressed the auxiliary device beneath my chin against the metal floor. From the dark gray walls, intense heat and subtle yet stronger vibrations were sensed. This should do. Since I just adjusted the cameras, this area won't be caught on tape. I carefully scratched the metal plate on the floor in case noise might attract attention. Soon a hole appeared, revealing wires and tubes inside. I widened my mouth above the hole. Melting these will be tough, huh? The corroding fungus between my esophagus and trachea activated. Soon, acidic fungal masses poured out of my mouth. The Imperial battleship was damaged by 78%. Disabled. Phew. Looking at the video feed coming through the cables connected to the ship, Kainescu sighed. In the center of the video he was watching, there used to be the Imperial battleship. The cult battleship, the Gormos 3's condemnation was hit by gremlin torpedoes and sinking. It was intense. Truly. As the battle dragged on, at some point, the Imperial battleship began to falter. Perhaps because they knew we'd finish it with gremlin torpedoes. Other cult warships also made sure not to let their ships get within the range of the torpedoes. More bothersome than I thought. Due to the cult ship's sacrifices, even targeting the battleship with gremlin torpedoes became a challenge. The cult fleet is retreating. TCH about the time they ran. Bloody idiots. As the cult proved to be more troublesome than expected, Vice Admiral Sonatif of the Nemi fleet opted for a very Star Union-esque strategy. They targeted our ships with torpedoes coated with nanomachines, then charged toward the Imperial battleship. This resulted in the destruction of about 10 ships, but ultimately, the Imperial battleship succumbed to the gremlin torpedoes nanomachines. And that's what Kainescu is watching now. No need to pursue. The fleet will return to the S-22 system. Thus, the brief battle came to an end. Kainescu doesn't know how significant the outcome of this battle will be. But it's none of my concern anyway. All decisions are made by the esteemed members of the Machine Council. Maybe Vice Admiral Sonatif will be a bit annoyed because of this battle. Order the repair drones to return and prepare the navigation warp. Confirmed. The computer of Ship 98 relayed Kainescu's orders. In the meantime, he checked the information of the special machines on board the ship. Damn, why conduct new screamer experiments on my ship? Originally, all Star Union screamers were managed by android Pira 11 of the machine assembly. Normally, they would be responsible for conducting screamer experiments. However, the situation was different this time. The suggestion to test if screamers could blend in well with regular soldiers came from higher-ups. Currently, a small number of completed prototypes are being tested on regular ships, and Kainescu's ship happened to carry one of these screamers. Why bring criminals on board in the first place? Even if they're fully controlled, no captain likes criminals roaming their ship. Furthermore, having to constantly observe how well these criminals adapt and file reports makes the situation even more unpleasant. But Kainescu couldn't voice his complaints. Pira 11 holds the rank of a Supreme Counselor. His rank is equivalent to that of the Supreme Counselor Nemi 5, who is the overall commander of the Nemi fleet to which he belongs and also a Supreme Counselor of the Machine Council. There's nothing he can say to an android in a position even higher than Vice Admiral Sonatif, the Deputy Fleet Commander. Sigh, if it's a problem, it needs to be dealt with. Ship 98, are we still far off? Why haven't we departed yet? The warp engine is experiencing issues. What? What kind of issues? The cooling function is inactive. Energy supply rate from the reactor decreased to 40%. Probability of error during hyperspace jump in this state is 63%. What did you say? No way, what the hell is that nonsense? Why would the perfectly fine hyperspace engine suddenly go haywire? Kainescu was baffled. Then a communication came from the battleship. Ship 98, what's going on? Why haven't you returned? There's an issue with the warp engine. It's risky to jump with a 63% chance of error. You are still in the JP-99 system, we don't know when enemies will return. Move to the nearby system urgently, repair quickly to reduce the error probability to 10%, then return. Understood. After ending the communication, Kainescu contacted Ship 98 again. Which is the nearest system from here? It's the AD 100 system. We'll arrive within 3 days with the current propulsion status. Alright. Let's head there first for repairs. As Kainescu was about to issue orders, the image that was floating in front of him suddenly cut off. Moreover, the lights in the situation room where he was seated all went out. What's going on? Ship 98. What's happening? Silence from the ship despite his outcry. A moment later, power returned to the ship's situation room. Ship 98 sent a message again through the connected cables. Urgent, unknown cause, direct imp occurred. Currently under recovery. What? Suddenly an imp? What's the cause? Unknown. Currently investigating. Try to investigate the cause by connecting to Starlink. Not possible. Communication function currently inactive. Damn it. How did this happen? Communication function inactive. That meant one thing. Distress. They were in the enemy's territory just a moment ago, engaged in combat. To crash in such a damaged state, and not only that. Confirmed imp source. Presumed to be inside the ship. Inside. Upon hearing Ship 98's report, Kainescu felt a chill run down his spine. Being stranded alone is already a problem, but having an unknown entity with them is even worse. Chapter 159. The engines have been disabled, and the communication blockade has just been completed. It's a good start. The broken communication equipment in front of me ceased operation, sparking its last spark. I scattered cables and bundles of wires on the floor. Thanks to number 26 hidden in the garbage disposal, I could easily disable the security of the communication room. Seizing the opportunity when the security androids were momentarily halted due to the imp effect, I sneaked in here unnoticed. Number 26 can maintain power, though. The reason I'm doing this rather clumsily is because there's a possibility that enemies might trace the psychic power traces used by that guy. Even apart from the APD, there's a tracking function attached as an auxiliary function besides blocking psychic powers. Although hiding places will eventually be discovered, it's not good to be exposed too soon. Having wrecked all the machinery, I opened the door of the communication room and stepped out. Androids still not fully recovered due to the imp effect stood with their heads drooped. The psychic power shot by number 26 produces a similar effect to imp, not an actual imp. It'll return to normal in a few minutes. Of course, by then, I'll probably be gone already. I moved my steps towards the next target. Originally, after disabling the engine, I planned to hit the drone control center instead of the communication room. This facility is unique to the Star Union, unlike other species ships like Megacorp or Cult. Star Union relies heavily on machines. At the central top or bottom of the rectangular box-shaped Star Union ship with protruding thorns, the longest cylindrical thorn is the drone control center. As the name suggests, it's a control center for managing drones and androids. Destroying that facility won't stop all drones and androids. After all, they are managed primarily by the ship's central computer. However, it can disrupt the actions of drones and androids. In other words, without the drone control center, it becomes easier to take control of the ship. So, I intended to target the engine next, but the situation changed abruptly. While moving towards the drone control center attached to the ceiling, I sensed a change in the movements of drones and androids. Machines from outside the ship weren't entering one after another. In the midst of battle, the reason why drones that should be focused on repairs are returning is 1. The end of the battle. To return to where they came from after the fight, they need to enter superluminal navigation mode, so they collected all the drones. It ended surprisingly early. Immediately realizing this fact, I swiftly crawled towards the communication room. Along the way, I signaled to number 26 to send out waves instructing the ship's machinery to malfunction. It was a timely move. Before making a mess of the communication equipment, I checked the communication records once. The last record was about contacting the headquarters, probably reporting the fact that the warp engine was damaged. If the communication blockade had been delayed a little longer, they would have definitely requested backup. Feeling the uniform vibration from my fingertips and toes, and a much stronger heat than before, I could tell that the thrusters attached to this ship were moving fiercely. It was clear that they had chosen to move to the safest territory possible to carry out self-repairs. That was the captain's biggest mistake, choosing to repair on their own rather than requesting repairs or reinforcements. That decision sealed the fate of this ship. External communication is severed and mobility is limited. Fortunately, it's an environment where I can frolic around. Can you see? This isn't damage from a collision. Captain, it seems like there's something other than us on this ship. Kane, who received the video through the cable, let out a sigh. After the engines, now the communication equipment, and even the drone control center have been neutralized. He knew what that implies. Ship 98 is under attack by an unidentified entity. And not from outside the hull, but from inside. Is there any way we can't recover? Is this an acidic solution in the circuit? It must be because of this, it completely melted. It could take at least 6 hours, or up to 12 hours for the drone control center to be restored. What about the communication equipment? It's similar here too. It means unfortunate fools might have to stay in a dumb state for 12 hours. At least the thrusters weren't damaged, so there were no issues with moving to another sector, but there was still no assurance. Though I didn't know what purpose the entity on this ship had, it was clear they harbored a distinct hostility towards us. Damn, I was too careless. I can vaguely guess where that entity came from. Ship 98 is a battleship belonging to the Nemi fleet that came to the JP-99 sector. It's likely that the intruder boarded his ship when it collided with that. For now, send available repair drones and androids there. Thank you. And are there any intruders caught on surveillance? Strangely, there's no footage of the communication room or the drone control center on the cameras. The Star Union officially espouses atheism. To androids made of metal parts and synthetic fiber modules, the afterlife holds no significance. Cyborgs like Kane didn't believe in ghosts or such superstitions, but at this moment, it felt like it might not be entirely out of the realm of possibility. Ship 98. Have you confirmed where the imp was fired from? The traces and information are too scant to confirm. Only the fact that it originated internally is confirmed. It means it's somewhere inside this ship. Arrange a mixed patrol of cyborgs, androids, and drones to monitor. There's a shortage of cyborg personnel on the hull. TSK, fill the shortage with screamers. Confirmed. Just hold out for 12 hours. Kane thought so. He realized he was wrong about that thought 3 hours later. All cameras and lights in the ship's corridors were off. Damn. Only cameras and lights went off? It couldn't be that the ship's reactor was attacked, right? There's nothing wrong with the reactor. Error in the wiring. Presumed to be due to external factors. But still, no footage on the cameras at all? Does that make sense? It was incomprehensible. There were hundreds of cameras on this ship. High-performance cameras equipped with various vision functions including thermal detection, not just basic surveillance functions. Special care was taken to ensure that cameras placed in important facilities didn't get disabled. But the fact that they weren't catching anything was absolutely impossible. He tried to somehow comprehend this inexplicable situation, but the true disaster was only just beginning. All security units, prepare for assault. Use all available weapons. Just kill the bastard by any means necessary. Damn it. Field of view transition complete. Defense readiness complete. As soon as the orders came down, 6 combat androids immediately responded. Unlike Megacorp androids, which are much more humanoid, these ones looked much more mechanical and were also quite efficient in terms of performance. Unlike Megacorp, which had fears about robot uprisings, Star Union had no such constraints, so continuous improvements were made. Models with quadrupedal locomotion, or models with 5 arms and 2 heads, and so on. Models optimized for combat, departing from human forms, activated their weapons equipped with heavy launchers that explosively enhanced both firepower and rate of fire, commonly known as storm gunners. These heavy launchers, resembling multi-barreled rocket launchers, unleash tremendous firepower in an instant, but they suffer from low accuracy. They are difficult to control for unmodified cyborgs to the extent that heavy launchers are primarily used by Star Union androids. However, in a battlefield like the one with one-way corridors, such as now, the low accuracy might not be as much of a disadvantage. If you see them, shoot them on sight. Affirmative. 2 cyborgs position 3 on each side of the corridor controlled terminal devices for drone operations. Normally, they would have joined the battle as well, but given the situation with the drone control center malfunctioning, it was impossible. To precisely control the drones, they had to operate them while checking through the terminals. As the cyborgs operated the terminals, spherical drones with 3 barrels each floated into the air. They were Star Union support drones. They could be useful for detecting unseen enemies like now or assisting androids' field of vision. Finally, they adjusted their own eyes, replaced by special cameras, to thermal detection mode. Because all lights in the corridor were completely off, nothing could be seen. Thus, after completing all preparations, the 2 cyborgs vigilantly monitored the front and rear. On the ashen-colored corridor, characteristic of thermal detection, not a single ant could be seen. The corridor remained silent to the point where it was hard to believe someone was targeting them. The only sounds were faint metallic noises and murmurs coming from the hull. Was it because of this atmosphere? The sound somehow felt unfamiliar to them. Wait, a noise. The cyborg guarding the rear wanted to focus on his guard duty, but the unknown noise kept bothering him. It was as if a warning was coming from some modified part of his brain, telling him not to miss it. In the end, he slightly adjusted the system responsible for his hearing. Thanks to that, the sound became louder than before. It sounded like something soft hitting a hard metal plate. What's this? He remembered the sound from when he used to walk barefoot before his legs were modified. As his gaze turned towards the direction of the sound, suddenly, his colleague from the front tapped his shoulder. What's up? Shh. The colleague pointed across the dark corridor. There shouldn't have been anything visible except darkness. At the end, heat emanating from a living being was faintly visible. Soon, dozens of small heat clusters began approaching rapidly towards them. Damn it. Commence firing. Heavy launchers, engage. From 6 androids with eerie appearances, an immense amount of bullets were unleashed. The terrifying weapons, firing hundreds of incendiary uranium rounds per second, decimated the targets. Beep, enemy flanking detected. Response initiated. The targets, or rather, the creatures, clung to the walls and ceiling, dodging the bullets as they moved. But to prevent this, drones were deployed. The support drones hovering in the air simultaneously relayed the target's movements to the androids while providing cover fire. The battle ended quickly. As the androids confirmed the annihilation of the enemies, they ceased fire, and the 2 cyborgs stepped forward. I wanted to see what kind of creatures they were, but this is how it turns out. Indeed. The heavy launcher is a weapon that makes heads and upper torsos disappear when aimed at human heads. There were no traces left by those hit with this weapon. The largest remaining part among the targets was the upper torso of one of them. These bastards look disgusting. Their teeth are excessively developed for bugs. Look at these mandibles. They're not even human teeth. You son of a bitch, it's scary to even think about them appearing in your dreams. The 2 who confirmed the body fragments shivered at the gruesome sight. These damn bastards might still be around. Let's check ahead first. The cyborg who was about to report to the captain stopped speaking. It was because that noise came to his ears again. His gaze turned towards the area near the ceiling where the noise was coming from. Drones are missing. The 3 drones that were there just a moment ago couldn't be seen anywhere. To inform his colleague of this fact, he quickly turned his head. As soon as he turned his head, warm liquid splattered on his face. Gulp. And the sound of his colleague coughing. His colleague, visible in the thermal detection view, slowly floated up into the air and was split into thirds. Kill that thing. The cyborg recoiled in horror at the sight, and the androids retreated behind him. However, even at his command, the androids showed no reaction. They looked remarkably docile, almost unbelievable considering they had just indiscriminately poured out firepower. Shoot. Shoot and kill that thing. No enemy detected. Fire con. Troll. Loosed. Subsequently, the androids met the same fate as his colleague. Something unseen mercilessly tore the androids apart. As the android with 5 arms was torn apart, synthetic petroleum flowed onto the floor and the quadrupedal android had its upper and lower body separated and pinned to the walls and ceiling. The wide corridor, which only smelled of metal before, was quickly filled with the smell of blood and petroleum. The provocative smell woke up the cyborg who had fallen into panic. I have to run. He sprinted down the corridor as far away from the creature as possible. Amidst his running, he faintly heard a sound from afar. It was the sound of gunfire. Somewhere else, similar events were surely unfolding here. I have to hide. A door on one side of the corridor caught his eye. It was a food storage room for cyborgs. He hurriedly opened the door and hid in a corner. I should be safe here. Cyborg combat rations had a smell as repulsive as their distinctive tire-like taste. With his body crouched down and holding his breath, the sounds from outside seemed even clearer. The gunfire he heard before entering here still hadn't stopped. Perhaps the situation on the other side wasn't any better. He swallowed hard. Please, someone come to help. Was his prayer answered by Lord Chewbacca? The sound of the food storage room door opening reached his ears. His gaze turned to the door, but there was nothing to be seen. Why can't I see anything? Wait. Suddenly, a sinister thought struck him. He cautiously deactivated the thermal detection view. Instead, he switched to a mode that used vibration to perceive objects, synchronized with his hearing and vision. As his view shifted, a new world unfolded before his eyes. The combat rations pouring in as he rushed in. Neatly stacked boxes. And a tail split into 2 at the end. A tail. His eyes moved up from the tail, adorned with pincers. 4 sturdy legs supporting the ground along with the tail. All covered in the same hard carapace and fur as the tail. On top of that, there were the thick torso and 4 arms. The arms, made of sturdy carapace and strong muscles, had sharp claws attached to them. Like weapons that had torn androids and cyborgs to shreds. And above that was the head. With a slender elongated muzzle reminiscent of a cold-blooded creature, a giant carapace extending backwards, and 6 mighty horns. It stared at him. Indeed. It seems you can't hide from vibrations. Despite the ordinary female voice coming from its mouth, he couldn't feel relieved. Now, it was approaching him with its mouth split into 2 branches, wide open. Picking up the combat rations scattered on the floor of the food storage, cleared of cyborgs in one go. Cyborgs don't taste great. The flesh itself was passable, but there were so many mechanical parts that it felt extremely gritty every time I chewed. It felt like eating ribs with lots of bones and little meat. What about this one? I put a packet of combat rations into my mouth without opening it. Ugh. It's bitter. Star Union's combat rations tasted more stale and bitter than the 100% cocoa I had tasted before. While the taste itself was better than Megacorp's calorie bombs, the texture was worse. I should eat this after taking over the ship. The plan was to infest the ship with parasites implanted in the captain and a few seemingly useful cyborgs. There were 2 main reasons for this cumbersome process. Firstly, to prepare for the possibility that cyborgs from other ships might contact this one. Since it was a ship that had left due to malfunction, there might be contact from the command side halfway through. But the inability to use the corrosive tentacles is the biggest issue. In fact, that was the main reason. Without being able to use the corrosion tentacles, it was impossible to corrode the ship on the horizon of nightmares. We can't even confirm if it's a target for corrosion. To dominate the ship, it was necessary to release the intelligent weakling state and then seize control with the corrosion tentacles. The transformation ability, organic evolution, had a cooldown period of 1 month, which was not short at all. Therefore, the plan was to minimize potential risks on the ship and then seize control. Should I go out and clean up the other side too? Leaving the food storage, I moved along the corridor. From a distance, I could hear the sounds of number 26 and Adha, as well as the noise of the Mother of the Sky raging. Looks like everyone's been bored. Once the corridor was cleared, it would be fine to gather and occupy the important facilities. Thinking about this, as I moved, I felt something lurking in front of that corridor. Gradually, with rough breathing, it revealed itself. Kuu, Kuu. Screamer. From the previous battle, I knew that androids and drones couldn't detect me. However, the cyborg I had last consumed was aware of me even before the battle. Sounds and vibrations can't be hidden. The unknown creature's fur property disrupted observation equipment, preventing detection of fur movement. It didn't hide vibrations or sounds, using the enhanced adhesion property to move as quietly as possible, but since I was a living being, I couldn't completely conceal the sound. If it's a screamer, what's going to happen? Kuu. Enemy detected. Eliminate. Kuu. Ah. Contrary to my expectations, the screamer looked at me with bloodshot eyes. A monster half-human, half-machine with 6 metal legs rushed towards me, its eyes full of malice. Chapter 160. If there were Hulk mutants in Megacorp, then in Star Union, there are screamers. They are quite similar in the aspect of forcibly modifying criminals into combat weapons and boasting terrifying exteriors. One difference is that Hulk mutants are often seen more as mercenary allies than enemies, whereas screamers primarily appear as adversaries. Unlike Hulk mutants who possess some intelligence and a degree of autonomy despite being under machine control, screamers are merely sound in mind while their bodies are subjected to mechanical control. Quite literally a machine's prison. As it's said, though named screamers, if the embedded life support AI doesn't permit, they can't even properly emit a sound. Just like the one rushing towards me now, making a raucous noise. It spotted me and shouted about finding an enemy upon seeing me, but it's merely an automatic dialogue output based on specific situations inputted to its AI. As it closes in, its sharp, spider-like claws aim to tear flesh from bone. I swing my combat arm to parry the attack, expecting its foot to easily bounce off as usual. But with a thud, its claw pierces my armored exoskeleton. It's not deeply embedded, but it surprises me nonetheless. Since becoming a Junsi, this is the first time someone has pierced my exoskeleton in melee combat since Muriel. But it doesn't end there. Its waist twists grotesquely, and the 2 metallic legs attached to its back glare at me menacingly. Quickly, I twist my head to block the claw with my exoskeleton and pivot my body, using the generated torque to swing my tail forcefully. The thick tail covered in armor brushes past the ground. At its end, the pincer collides with the creature. The screamer hit by the Swamp King's club is slammed into the corridor wall. Kuo, kuo. Despite the momentum enough to shatter upon impact, it doesn't die. Apart from a few bent metallic bones, it seems intact. Why so resilient? I've fought screamers countless times, knowing their capabilities fairly well. However, the defense and offense of this one before me are beyond standard. It's been upgraded. Kuo kuo. Backing off, the screamer exhaled roughly, wary of me. Whether it recognized through our exchange that I'm not an easy opponent or not, its movements are cautious. I, too, carefully assess the foe. Who knows what additional features it might have gained? Though unlikely, it might be concealing means to threaten my life. Thus, I must remain vigilant during this fight. Then, it lunged at me once again. This time, instead of leaping onto the corridor, it traversed between the walls and ceiling, pounding 6 metallic legs into them. Perhaps to sow confusion. I can also traverse walls like it does. Following its lead, I leap towards it, sticking to the walls and ceiling as I advance. Our distance rapidly closes. Just before collision, it raises 2 front legs high. Its target is my neck. Like an icicle, its sharp blade aims for my throat. Rather than blocking its attack, I simply drop from the ceiling. Its strike grazes futilely against my rear exoskeleton. Undeterred, it attempts to cover above me, aiming to seize my throat. But before that, my tail intervenes, grabbing its legs with the pincer at its end. Despite shrinking in size, it hasn't lost all its strength. I apply force with the pincer. Risk of damage to legs 1 and 2. The creature attempted to break free with mechanical noises, but being firmly held, its resistance was futile. Unable to withstand the tightening force on its metallic legs, they snapped. As liquid sprayed from the tubes connected to the broken legs, the creature widened its eyes. Ku-yu-yu. Its breathing became coarse. I swung my combat arm. At that moment, the creature gave up on the restrained legs. Withdrawing as it discarded the legs, my attack ended in vain. Taking a few steps back, the creature bent its remaining legs and forcefully pushed. With its sturdy metal skeleton, it climbed onto my back. In that state, its legs coiled around my neck and the exoskeleton of my back like a noose. I thought it was attempting to strangle me, but that wasn't the case. Near the creature's grip on me, a long, thin tail resembling a scorpion's tail emerged. Unlike a scorpion, it had rotating saw blades instead of a venomous sting. While still holding onto the creature, I forcefully slammed its back into the corridor. With all my strength exerted along with my weight, the entire hull trembled slightly. Impact detected. Irreversible damage. Due to that impact, the creature's body was partially contorted. The legs holding me loosened. Yet, as a final act, the creature's tail slashed at my rear exoskeleton. Upon collision with the exoskeleton and saw blades, intense sparks flew, illuminating the dark corridor. This is it. I grabbed the creature's tail and swung it towards the wall as if swinging a baseball bat. From the creature, which was partially embedded in the wall, machine components and life-sustaining fluid spurted out. Despite the mess, the creature vigorously wriggled its remaining legs to harm me somehow. As a finishing move, I stabbed its body with the 6 horns on my head. Hui Gaoa. Keek. The life support AI controlling the creature fell silent after those words. Tubes attached all over its body were severed, all legs were broken, and its tail, torn off entirely, was in my hand. Soon, it spat out the tube fragment it had in its mouth. While it had a murderous glint when fighting me, facing death, it looked much more serene. Thank you. It tried to say something while looking at me, then shook its head. Phew. I've never seen a screamer this strong. Though the battle wasn't long, it inflicted considerable damage on me. It damaged my head exoskeleton. Though a small scratch, it's not to be ignored. If it's further upgraded from here, it could become a mass-produced weapon capable of inflicting fatal injuries even to an amorph. The kids are in danger. There are at least 3 screamers on this ship. Even I couldn't defeat it easily, it would be much harder for the kids. Moreover, unlike me who has sturdy defenses, number 26 or Adhay's defenses are nothing special. If they get hit by the rotating saw blades on the creature's tail, they'll die. I quickly moved away from the screamer's corpse. Until I fought the screamer, the constant sound of gunfire echoing through the corridors had now ceased. It meant the fight was over. With that thought, an inexplicable sense of unease crept over me. As I ran towards the nearest ATHA, a fork in the corridor appeared before me. Taking the right corridor would lead straight to ATHA. I increased my speed and quickly checked the right corridor. There, I found numerous fallen bodies and the Mother of the Sky. Among the fallen bodies, I spotted the mangled screamer. And one of the fallen creatures had large wings and a long tail. ATHA. The moment I saw ATHA lying on the floor, my heart sank. But then, the creature lifted her head. Disgusting. Seriously. Disgusting. I told you. It would be disgusting. Me. Friend. Talk. Distrust. Mistake. ATHA scratched with her front paws, equipped with tentacles instead of a mouth. The creature, diligently cleaning her tentacles, spotted me. Adult. Welcome. You came. ZZZZZZZZZ, is everyone okay? Why so surprised? Oh, is it because of this guy? The Mother of the Sky, grooming her feathers, looked at me and responded indifferently. This one was much stronger than the screamers I knew. Looks like you fought one too. ZZZ, yeah. It seemed like the Mother of the Sky was in charge of the screamers. Looking at the screamer's corpse, its head was separated from the body. The Mother of the Sky must have decapitated it with her talons. She precisely aimed for the soft flesh rather than the tough metal parts. ZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZ, seems like it had reinforced the metal parts. Well done. Huh? You haven't checked yet? ZZZZZZZ, what do you mean? Making incomprehensible sounds, she pointed at the dead screamer with her front claw. She indicated the creature's neck area. Examining the back of the neck, I saw traces of several attempted slashes. Their bodies aren't human. ZZZ, what? They're too sturdy for humans. She lightly scratched the screamer's skin with her claw. Griffin's claws were extremely sharp, so even a light scratch should have torn flesh. However, there was only superficial damage to the screamer's skin. Originally, there wasn't much difference between a screamer's head and torso and that of a regular cyborg. The metal skeleton covering its body was sturdy, but the biological tissue wasn't modified separately. Hence, in the game, the weakness of screamers was precisely their vulnerable torso. Depending on how the head was modified, sometimes they came out wearing helmet-like masks, so it should be considered an exception. Come to think of it, the one I fought was also tough. Earlier, I had slammed the creature into the wall with it still attached to my back. Considering my strength, not only should the tubes and legs have been crushed, but its body itself should have been shattered. However, it didn't die immediately, and after delivering a valid strike with its tail, it died. Then there's only one answer. Genetically enhanced humans, or ZZZZZZ, Hulk mutant. She nodded silently. They made Hulk mutants into screamers. Although I said it myself, it was hard to believe. Understandably, the Star Union and Megacorp are at war. The likelihood of core technologies like the Hulk mutant production method flowing to the Star Union is low. And even if they somehow obtained it through espionage, turning it directly into screamers wouldn't be easy. The Star Union's genetic manipulation technology isn't advanced. Apart from cloning technology, in other areas, both in terms of technology and infrastructure, it lags behind Megacorp. Having the technology alone doesn't solve the problem of production. First, let's see if number 26 is safe. What? What are the kids doing without me? At that moment, a wave of psychic energy flew towards me. It was number 26. In the dim corridor, there was a thudding sound, and soon after, it revealed itself. The Mother of the Sky and I were surprised to see number 26's appearance. Brought a big guy for dinner? Due to its increased size, the creature, occupying about 2/3 of the corridor, was holding two screamers with the psychic power technique bind. Kuo. Anomalies detected due to unknown power. Kuo. Activity impossible due to unknown power. Even the two screamers were still alive. Despite their metal skeletons and legs twisted like pretzels, they were alive. Upon seeing that, ATHA fired a telepathic message. Little adult. That. Disgusting. Really? I tried it. Disgusting. Is that so? Then I guess I should dispose of it. ZZZZZZZZZZZZZZ. Wait, there's no need to do that. As soon as Adhay's telepathy ended, I quickly gestured to number 26 as I saw the heads of the two screamers twist oddly. Zoom, 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 I need to grow quickly so I'll eat well. Does the big one want it for growing? ZZ, yes. Then eat a lot and grow a lot. ZZZZZ, thank you. As number 26 released its restraint, the screamers collapsed to the floor. They tried to move to attack number 26, but with every component of their metal legs twisted, they couldn't budge. Looks like there's no black-silver mixed in. If it were black-silver alloy, number 26 wouldn't have been able to subdue them so easily. I affectionately patted the body of the creature larger than me in praise. ZZZZZZ, well done. Yes. The creature glowed faintly with delight. Having patted number 26, I stood before the incapacitated screamers. Let's check right away. I have a useful tool for identifying unknown entities. One of my psychic abilities, Insight. Obtained from hunting a policeman named William in the Space City in the past, this ability randomly reveals information possessed by the enemy. All we need to confirm is the species name. As Insight activated, purple flashes emanated from my eyes, illuminating the dark corridor. And before me appeared a translucent text box. Name. Species, Hulk Mutant. Status, Enhanced Screamer Surgery. Equipment. The information confirmed by Insight was as we predicted. A Hulk mutant turned into a screamer. What does this mean? There are individuals cooperating between Star Union and Megacorp. The war between the two factions has lasted for hundreds of years. There have been sightings of humans from Megacorp expressing hatred towards the machines from the Star Union. Of course, it's known that there are individuals in the upper echelons of Megacorp who secretly sell employees to the Star Union for credits. But leaking important war weapon manufacturing techniques is a different matter altogether. After all, if they lose the war, credits won't be the issue. There's only one entity that would do such a thing. There are players in both Megacorp and the Star Union who create new Screamer variants. And it's fairly easy to guess who the player from the Star Union might be. Unless they're part of the machinery assembly, or even more than that, they couldn't do this. Only androids can be part of the machinery assembly. Players cannot enter. So, the opponent must be someone more powerful than the machinery assembly within the Star Union. The Grandmaster. The current Grandmaster has close ties to players from Megacorp. Chapter 161. The Grandmaster might be a player too. So far, I've known a total of 4 players. Muriel, a space dog player who can transform into different species while being a cyborg, the Mother of the Sky, who helped Muriel, and I also know that there are players in the Megacorp and the Cult. But now, a player from Star Union has been added to the mix. Star Union's presence is bothersome when they're enemies. Since they operate mainly with machinery, they don't align well with amorphs who collect genetic essence to evolve. No matter how many machines an amorph consumes, it can't become stronger. Additionally, it's impossible to utilize deceit tactics through complex political structures when facing Star Union. Unlike Megacorp, where power is divided among various families, and Cult, where multiple political factions proliferate, Star Union's power structure is solely singular, the machine assembly. And the leader of this assembly is none other than the Grandmaster. Hence, being at odds with him is tantamount to being hostile to the entire Star Union. No, there's no need to worry yet since nothing is confirmed. However, there's a more pressing issue at hand, identifying the Megacorp player cooperating with the Grandmaster. Someone proficient in manipulating Hulk mutant technology and easily accessible to the upper echelons of Star Union. Suddenly, the Megacorp player who supported Muriel comes to mind. Could it be? I speculated that the player who assisted her might hold a high position within the Garamalda family, known for reinforced armor development. But upon further consideration, all the equipment she used was of Star Union origin. While psenium, as per the setting, is a stimulant traded even within Megacorp, it's ultimately a drug developed by Star Union. Blood River is also a device only cyborgs can produce. Initially, I thought the equipment the cyborg Muriel obtained was modified by the Garamalda players. However, if it's not the case and instead involves a Star Union player, a Garamalda player, and Muriel, then no, there's insufficient evidence. Blood River is an advanced device, but given enough resources, it's easily replicable. As a cyborg pirate capable of disguising as other species, Muriel could easily produce it. Even if there were another Star Union player aiding Muriel, there's no guarantee they're the Grand Master. Perhaps they're separate factions. Supporters of Muriel and Screamer operators. Viewing them as two separate entities seems reasonable. If luck isn't on my side, these factions might even cooperate. In such a case, I'd have not only Muriel's supporting faction to contend with but also the Screamer operators. It's still uncertain. I forcibly quelled the incessant speculation. While it's not wrong to be vigilant, excessive caution can hinder proper judgment. It becomes a shackle obstructing correct decisions. Returning to square one, the Megacore player who aided in creating the Screamers is at least Prime Capital or above. Genetic manipulation technology is unavoidable if they want to use it. And when it comes to producing Hulk mutants, the options narrow further. Only Prime Capitals, like the Knights from the Eden family I saw before, can manipulate genes to such an extent. To produce Hulk mutants, one would need to ascend to noble capital. Moreover, among the noble capitals, the Eugens have the most advanced genetic manipulation techniques. Previously, there were Si-Hyun Eugen and Code Black creations of the Eugen family. They didn't exhibit any noticeable side effects despite harboring multiple genes within their bodies. Other noble capitals can't create to that standard. Yet, creating these Screamers doesn't seem to require such advanced technology. I scrutinized all the Screamers. While they appear as cyborgs, closer inspection reveals some distinct features. This part seems to be extracted from Cold Blood's keratinization gene, and this one looks like a result of muscle enhancement genes. They're all Hulk mutants synthesized with 2 or 3 genes. Noble capitals other than the Eugens can also create Hulk mutants at this level. I'm confused. In this state, it seems impossible to guess who's involved with the Screamers. I told my guess to the Mother of the Sky, who is also a player. The Grandmaster might be a player too, since being a cyborg is a prerequisite for reaching the ending. Perhaps, as you speculated, a ranker from Garamelda has made a deal with the Grandmaster. Oh? Why? Screamers are classified as half biological, half mechanical. If they're going to mass-produce Hulk mutants to use as Screamer material, they'll need an understanding of machinery and weapon technology. It's a valid point. In the realm of mechanical weaponry rather than bioweapons, Garamelda is superior to the Eugen family. Maybe both families have made a pact. Are there players from both families? Honestly, I think the likelihood is low, but you never know. Even if it's not the case, a player from one side could have persuaded the other family. It seems far-fetched, but there is nothing to lose in being cautious. I'll speak up if I recall anything or find a clue. Ultimately, I didn't obtain concrete information about making Screamers. I can only speculate that players were involved. What's left? Fresh prey brought by number 26. Big guy, eat quickly. It'll taste bad if time passes. Denial. It's bad. Quiet. In the original game, killing Screamers didn't yield genetic essence because they were classified as mechanical despite being a mix of biological and mechanical. But not here. With Hulk mutants, genetic essence is a given. If I kill the remaining Screamers, all the traits within them will be mine. Should I use the symbol of hunt? Using the symbol of hunt significantly increases the chance of prey. It's the only way to obtain a large amount of genetic essence when you want to secure multiple types. However, the drawback is the side effects after the mark fades. This transformation consumes massive amounts of energy, leading to immense hunger after it ends, to the point where maintaining sanity becomes difficult. That Hulk mutant has one decent genetic essence. As confirmed earlier, one of the Screamers had genetic essence from Cold Blood. Cold Blood has many traits related to internal organs. So far, I've acquired a total of 4 types, with 3 types unlocked conditionally. Originally, there were only 2 types, Special Defense type and Cosmic Monster type. However, a few hours ago, I unlocked a new type by devouring Star Union's supply line in its entirety. Type internal organs related, muscle reinforcement, heat emission, enhanced digestive fluid secretion. Fuse traits related to internal organs, revenant organ. The Star Union supply line I consumed contained a variety of intelligent beings, allowing me to acquire many internal organ-related traits that aren't easily obtainable. The internal organs trait focuses on enhancing and modifying various organs within the body. While it doesn't offer many direct combat-related traits, it's specialized in supporting the effects of other traits. Most traits in this category are duds, but some are very effective. Currently, the only useful internal organ-related trait I have is the revenant organ made from household waste. However, there are other useful traits included besides that. In particular, traits that modify the nervous system synergize well with psychic-related traits. Just as there is synergy between infection-related traits and nest-related traits, psychic-related traits have synergy with several internal organ-related traits. Moreover, traits that increase my energy consumption efficiency are also classified as internal organ-related traits. However, there's no guarantee that consuming them will yield immediate results. I hesitated as I looked at the remaining screamers. Come to think of it, there was talk about conserving energy in intelligent weaklings. It was written in the description. After a moment of contemplation, I made a decision. Let's try it this time. I might end up using the symbol of hunt while in the state of an intelligent weakling later. In the current situation, where I'm not directly threatened, it's better to confirm in advance to avoid problems later. I cautioned the kids that I might lose my mind again. In that case, they should quickly pass the body to someone else. Poor big guy must be really hungry. Big adult. Gourmet. Number 26 sent waves of pity mixed with Adhay's teasing mockery. After giving them all a glance, I looked at Mother of the Sky one last time. She silently nodded. It was a sign that she would help, so I shouldn't worry. Feeling relieved, I activated the symbol of hunt. Damn it. Captain Kane of Ship 98 cursed as he continuously observed the incoming biosignal screen, filled with black fires. Since the assault of unknown monsters began, communication with the cyborgs had been cut off one by one. Moreover, the screamer received from the machine assembly were rapidly dying off. Kane knew that screamers were criminals, but they were also very effective in combat as war weapons. The fact that such powerful weapons were being destroyed without resistance meant the enemies were beyond the usual level. Activate emergency power and reactivate the camera. Darn it, it's not just one. Due to the destruction of the drone control center, it was impossible to view the camera footage remotely, but the androids were not affected. Synced with dozens of android perspectives, Kane could see the monsters that had boarded the ship. 2 invisible creatures, a 4-legged hairy beast, and even a pink balloon-like creature using unknown powers. Even in the Star Union's arena of beasts, such monsters were unheard of. What about the analysis of these creatures? Analysis of unidentified organisms Type C and D is ongoing. Type 100 is assumed to have very agile movements, with strong claws and beaks. Type D is suspected to use high-density prophet-grade psychic powers. What about A and B? They're not visible, why is that? Type B is assumed to possess the ability to fly at high speeds. Estimated to move faster than a fighter jet based on the damage level when androids were attacked. How many drones capable of automatic navigation are there on this ship? Due to the destruction of the drone control center, only 6 are currently available. Damn, for now, transmit all the information we've gathered so far through those drones. Transmitting. After I leave, launch them in automatic navigation mode and set them to send out a distress signal after 10 hours. Confirmed. With that, Kane unplugged the cable behind his head. He did this to somehow convey information to the fleet he belonged to, the Nemi fleet. Judging from their strategy of attacking key facilities, these creatures aren't just strong monsters. If they were creatures that moved strategically to this extent, they might expect him to escape on a fighter jet. If there was no way to escape anyway, he was prepared to fight to the end. My revenge will be carried out by the Nemi fleet. You monsters. Standing up, he armed himself with the weapons in the situation room. As he was about to leave armed, number 98 reported to him. Setup complete. Alright. Good job. Safe travels. It was a message that always appeared when leaving the situation room, but why did it sound like it was cheering him on for his determination? Kane emerged into the dark corridor. Despite the destruction of numerous cyborgs and androids, the corridor in front of the situation room remained silent. With a lightweight version of the storm gun in hand, he controlled the drone terminal. A neat spherical drone rose above his head. Even with the androids and screamers wiped out, his chances of defeating the monsters were slim, given his lower level of armament compared to them. It doesn't matter. His revenge plan was already in motion. He clenched his jaw and surveyed the corridor ahead. As he stared into the darkness of the corridor, he suddenly felt a vibration. Though he had spent a long time on this ship, the vibration beneath his feet felt strangely unfamiliar. The irregular vibration caused the alloy walls surrounding the corridor to tremble with a uniform rhythm. "They're coming." Kane tightened his grip on the pulse gun. Not long after the strange vibration was felt, he heard a sound. It resembled the breath of a screamer but was much rougher and deeper. It reminded him of the sound of a hyperspace engine moving, but more ferocious. Kane easily recognized the sound as the growling of a monster. Darn it! Where are they? As the sound and vibration grew closer, the creature's presence remained unseen. Even the reconnaissance drone continued to circle the area without spotting it. "I can hear footsteps, but they're not visible on the heat detection sensors." "Wait, what's that sound?" Quickly, Kane adjusted the options of the reconnaissance drone and his own field of view. It was a mode to identify the enemy's movements through vibration and waves. In doing so, he saw the figure of the creature standing at the end of the corridor. The sight of the monster, filling the corridor, was truly terrifying. With 6 long, thick horns reaching the ceiling, the creature's face resembled an animal's skull. Its elongated snout gripped the severed head of a screamer, and where eyes should have been, there were sharp spikes and plates protruding, sometimes appearing like eyes, only adding to the fear. Below its jaw were 4 sharp bone blades, menacing as the horns above. The bone blades twitched incessantly, as if ready to slice through an enemy at any moment. The body below was covered in long fur, making it difficult to see clearly. Merely glimpsing the legs that appeared whenever the creature breathed hinted at the presence of multiple limbs. Kane, facing the creature, lost all his composure. The thought of buying time against that monster was nothing short of a terrible joke. Enemy sighted. If the drone hadn't reported, he would have died without moving a muscle. Regaining his senses, he ran madly down the opposite corridor. As he fled, the creature swallowed the head of the screamer in one gulp and moved. With every step of the massive creature, the corridor echoed with a rumble. Straining himself to run as fast as he could, Kane suddenly felt a chilling sensation behind his neck. At the same time, the blade attached to the creature's jaw cut through the corridor, cleanly slicing through the sturdy alloy wall like scissors through paper. Gah! He narrowly avoided the attack, but his posture crumbled. Several steps later, he collapsed completely. Stay back. Sensing imminent death, he tightly shut his eyes. However, time passed, and he did not die. When he cautiously opened one eye, he saw the creature's face in front of him. "Why you? Are you the captain?" The voice that came from the creature's mouth was feminine. He was too tense to respond properly. Trembling, he was asked again by the monster. "I'll ask one last time. Are you the captain?" "Why yes." Satisfied with his answer, the creature withdrew its head. Attempting suicide with a gun only to have it misfire must feel something like this. Kane, who had just faced death and somehow survived, sighed heavily. But what followed froze him in place. "I almost killed a useful one." With those words, it extended its arm. Inside the thick fur of the creature, something squirmed as if trying to emerge. "From now on, you will serve the Andromeda, not the Star Union." Seeing the wiggling black worm emerging from the fur, Kane wished he could just faint instead. Chapter 162. "Ha, Captain? Kuuak. Shit, everyone retreat. He. As the captain's orders were heard, the cyborgs gathered in the situation room panicked and screamed as soon as they faced me. Unlike some of the other cyborgs, they hadn't modified their eyes, so they quickly recognized my presence. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. The reactions of the cyborgs upon seeing me were quite varied. Please spare us. Spare us. SP." Their pleas were cut short. They knelt, hands worn from begging, only to be silenced by a snap at my hands. "Damn. You're like a traitor to the Star Union. I'll personally." Another group, expressing anger towards the betrayed captain, rush towards him only to have their upper bodies severed by the bone blade arms on my back. And finally, everyone, take cover behind the barricades. We must subdue him. There were few but still courageous cyborgs who attacked me without losing their resolve. They hid behind computers and machinery in the situation room, launching their assault. Pulse gunshots using uranium tungsten rounds rained down upon me. Each time, the scales, no, synthetic scales, beneath my fur rippled, absorbing the impact of the bullets. Synthetic scales replaces the outer layer with synthetic scales. Can harden specific areas using these scales. All the outer layers of my body had been replaced by tiny scales. A new trait gained from devouring a screamer, synthetic scales, was at play. The true value of this trait lay in its ability to harden weaknesses in the body. By rearranging the scales in the affected area upon physical impact, temporary defense enhancement was possible. With this trait, I can protect appendages or auxiliary systems from monster tentacles. In the guise of a hunter, my auxiliary systems were now covered in armor, but not in ordinary circumstances. I approached the cyborgs, bullets bouncing off my body. FCK. Our attacks are useless. Everyone retreat. Retreat. Even as I closed in, a cyborg bravely firing bullets at me met his demise as my 4 bone blades under my jaw slashed through him. The cyborgs nearby, realizing the futility of bullets against me, tried to flee while their comrades were being slaughtered. Those who turned their backs to flee were met with my tail. Arg. A cyborg relatively close by was struck by my tail and slammed into a wall. Fortunately, he died without much suffering. Let go. A cyborg caught in the pincer at the end of my tail struggled, but soon screamed as the pincer tightened. The sturdy pincer was part of the hard metal exoskeleton of the screamer. There was no way the cyborg could withstand it. The cyborg, now a lifeless mass after vomiting a mix of organs and bodily fluids, was quickly discarded. I chased after the fleeing cyborgs. Wait, please. Stop. Cook. Before the hunt's end, most of the cyborgs within the hull had been dealt with, except for a few. I need to implant parasites. The maximum limit for the enhanced parasitic colony via type effect was 10. With one already inside the Sky Mother, only 9 survivors remained. We will follow our new master. The cyborgs, now dominated by the parasites, kneeled before me atop the bloodied situation room floor. There were 2 reasons I spared them. Currently, there are many androids and drones remaining on this ship. The goal is to neutralize them all. Although it's permissible for me and the kids to roam around and destroy them, there's no need to exert effort on those we can't obtain genetic essence from. And it could serve as insurance when the Star Union comes chasing after us. To deceive the pursuers, including the ship's command, such as the captain, must remain. They might attempt to scan the biosignals of our captain or senior crew members from their end. With this, preparations for taking over the ship are complete. Taking control of a military vessel seemed easier than before, perhaps because of increased strength. Aside from encountering the unexpected formidable opponent, the Screamer, it ended smoothly without major variables. Upon closer examination, the gains from the Screamer seem more substantial. Aside from obtaining clues about Star Union players, we were able to secure new genetic essences. In the game, Screamers are classified as machines rather than biological entities, so we couldn't obtain genetic essences from them. However, the upgraded Screamers on this ship were different. Being made from Hulk mutants, we could obtain several types of genetic essences. Getting the cold-blooded trait here was lucky. Cold blood is a race with characteristics of reptiles mixed with those of insects, based on a humanoid reptilian base. Despite their frightening appearance, they have high intelligence and gained some cult popularity due to their tragic backstory. According to the setting, Cold Bloods once competed for dominance in the universe alongside the cult, but at this point, they're completely fallen. They gained power through a contract with the Vortex One, but in return, the fate of their entire race was sealed. Now they've descended to being sold as slaves to cultists or other races worshipping the Vortex One. Players who choose Cold Blood aim to liberate and redeem their suffering brethren. I remember someone in the community called it the Dinosaur Exodus. Anyway, because of this setting, Cold bloods are scattered across the universe, often only seen in the late game if luck permits. So, I thought it would be a while before I could acquire their traits. It's strange that there are so many cold bloods on the labor supply ship. All the internal organ-related traits I acquired were from cold blood. Whether cold blood genes played a significant role in screamer development or if the labor supply ship I consumed had an unusually high number of cold blood, I couldn't tell. Whatever the cause, it turned out to be beneficial for me. The ability to guard weaknesses with synthetic scales and the useful revenant organ for critical moments were unexpected gifts. Though there are slight regrets. While I gained several traits from consuming screamers, the rest were all traits I already possessed. Typically, Hulk mutants are synthesized from various genes, but these screamers were composed entirely of the same genes like replicas. Perhaps they were deliberately standardized for use as screamer material. Whether due to their identical genes or not, their appearance and taste were exactly the same. Thinking about it, it feels somewhat disgusting. The taste of the Hulk mutant used in the screamers was truly awful. It was so repulsive that I felt an impulse to scratch the inside of my mouth with my nails. Based on my past experiences, the taste of creatures with a combination of multiple genes was usually decent. Like Shin Yujin and the Knights of the Ejerdone family. But this time, that rule was broken. It was a disgusting taste. It was like when you accidentally put toothpaste on your toothbrush and then drank orange juice. More precisely, it was like adding salt on top of that. With this level of satiety, even when the hunting guise ends. Ah, it's about to end now. Just as the tiger always comes after its roar. Smoke began to emanate from my body, and my physique started to change. It was the end of the guise of the hunt. My body, which had grown to about 8 meters, including my tail, returned to 5 meters. The elongated fur shrank to fit my body size, and the bone blade arms protruding from my back quickly shrank. Gradually, the bone blade arms became like calluses peeling off the skin, then crumbled. The same change occurred on the bone shell that enveloped the auxiliary organ under my chin. After all the changes were complete, I quickly stuffed the cyborg corpses in the situation room into my mouth. It was to alleviate the hunger that always followed the end of the guise. But something was off. My stomach doesn't feel that empty. While hunger felt stronger than usual, it wasn't to the point of losing reason. With this level of hunger, eating a few cyborg corpses would quickly satisfy me. Could this also be due to the astute weakling effect? As expected, after devouring 3 cyborg corpses, the side effects of the guise immediately subsided. Perhaps as a specialized survival state, it also drastically reduced energy consumption. I thought the decrease in combat power was unfavorable, but being able to use the guise of the hunt without looking back was a merit. Furthermore, it seemed to match well with the characteristic of consuming massive amounts of stored energy. For instance, the Divine Spectre. Feasting on the cult's orbital weapon, the Brain God to obtain the Divine Spectre was my most powerful long-range attack method. Unlike the original, there was no limitation of once every 14 days, but instead, there was a drawback of reducing power by 2/3 and tremendous energy consumption. But what if I were to become an astute weakling here? Then, I could use the Divine Spectre more freely than usual. While it's impossible to go on a rampage, for me, lacking long-range attack methods, it could be a godsend. It's regrettable that I can't operate in such a manner in my normal state yet. There's no need to regret it. I can obtain it later. Having alleviated the side effects of the guise of the hunt, I stood up. Just then, the Mother of the Sky entered the situation room with the kids. You were quite rambunctious. How are the side effects? ZZZZZZZZZZZ, they're unexpected boons. She had hidden with the kids in a corner of the ship, possibly in preparation for my potential rampage. I briefly explained the effect of the astute weakling to her. She nodded as if impressed. It's certainly a good trait. It usually has quite a wide range of applications. ZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZ, many weaknesses for infiltration have been greatly improved. It would be excellent for blindsiding players. They wouldn't know about this from there. And she was right. In the game, there's no known trait that artificially changes a morph size. If I don't know, it's highly unlikely that others do. Our enemies have built a formidable force, operating fleets and deploying orbital weapons. Since I'm still lacking in power to suppress them, I need to respond with infiltration and deception tactics. While we were discussing her and my traits, numbers 26 and Adha approached. Big guy, do you need more food? I'm full, so you too can eat. Understanding my signal, number 26 extended its tentacles towards the corpses. Adha, following number 26, was about to join in the meal when she suddenly looked at me and approached. ZZZZZZZZ, what's wrong? Adult. Before. Different. Now. Charming. Incomprehensible. Swishing her tail, Adha sent telepathic signals. Her gaze was fixed on the scales inside my fur. Now. Good. It must be because of the scales. While Adha usually compliments me, my appearance itself is quite different from a Gagon. It's hard to call the flight membrane wings, and the carapace and scales on my body are quite distinct from Gagon scales. It seems that the change to scales fits Adha's taste. She glanced at me for a moment, then nodded satisfactorily and went over to number 26. The mother of the sky commented upon seeing me. It's raining cats and dogs. Meeting her crescent-shaped eyes, I felt somehow embarrassed. ZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZ Are you not going to eat? As you know, eating cyborgs doesn't help me. It's better for the kids to eat. Like me, she also needs to consume the flesh of powerful enemies to grow. Perhaps until we reach the Galagon's nest, her growth will also stagnate. Anyway, I've already taken care of all the annoying ones. Now that the assessment of the astute weakling trait is almost finished, it's time to move on to the next step. I nodded to the kids who were having their meal and left the situation room. Finally, the time had come to swallow this ship 98. What exactly is your problem? What are you talking about? This cult nonsense. There's a mountain of things to prepare for the sake of justice, but you're here listening to the ramblings of such a person and looking for treasure. Min-suk Yujin, the caretaker of Si-hyun Yujin's house, was not pleased with his nonchalant owner. After the failed assassination of Akira Yujin, Si-hyun Yujin's actions were full of incomprehensible things to Min-suk. They needed to quickly subdue the elders of the remaining Yujin family on Earth and build an anti-Akira faction. But instead, they were aimlessly wandering through space. Originally, Akira Yujin wasn't very active externally. Apart from what the CEO must do, he spent most of his time on Earth. The reason why he risked his life to plan the destruction of the T&C Special Trade Center was because it was rare for him to go out. With the ongoing civil war, it's easier to plan an assassination. But why isn't it working? It's because with our current strength, we can't eliminate Akira. Si-hyun Yujin casually remarked. She said the same thing every time Min-suk protested. Killing Akira was impossible. She had infiltrated the flagship of the Yujin family herself to assassinate Akira. Min-suk could believe that much. As evidence, she brought back the dagger of Code Blue. But what followed was the problem. Are you still saying that Akira has subdued the shadows? That's impossible. As a close aide to Si-hyun, Min-suk knew how powerful the shadows were and how powerful Si-hyun was in her prime. So he couldn't believe that she had been subdued by Akira and barely escaped. I don't believe it. There seems to be a reason I don't know. Min-suk remained skeptical. Si-hyun's eyes narrowed as he continued to doubt. I am your master. You haven't forgotten that, have you? Min-suk remained silent. Si-hyun rose from her seat. Though Min-suk flinched at her movement, he didn't avoid her gaze. I'll ask you one last time. Answer carefully. For a brief moment, his hand moved towards his pocket, then stopped. Si-hyun didn't miss the gesture. Min-suk Yujin. Who do you serve? Si-hyun Yujin, the rightful heir of the Yujin family. He remained loyal to Si-hyun Yujin, the rightful heir. At first glance, it seemed like a sign of submission to her, but Si-hyun noticed that he deliberately chose an ambiguous expression. That's because she was Si-hyun Yujin and at the same time, not Si-hyun Yujin. In other words, Min-suk meant that the target he was loyal to was the original Si-hyun Yujin, not the replica in front of him. Si-hyun understood that point but didn't bother to mention it. No, to be precise, she couldn't mention it. Go back. I have things to do. Yes. Min-suk also seemed to consider today not the right day to argue further. He made a gesture of farewell and began to leave the office. As he reached for the doorknob to exit, he muttered to himself softly. And having a competitor by your side. What's that about? TSK. After Min Suk left the office, Si-hyun, who remained alone, slumped into her chair. She murmured to the empty air. I showed a pitiful sight. Then, the metal suit standing in the corner of the office moved. It was a suit with a bizarre design, a mix of reinforced armor and walker features, measuring a whopping 2.5 meters in size, and its color was as black as the space outside the spaceship. Moreover, the metal suit was in the form of a full body wrap like the reinforced armor worn by the Knights of Ezerden. Resembling an android of the Star Union rather than a human, it spoke in a mechanical voice. No, it was more informative than I expected. I gained a lot of information I didn't know. A cynic, as always. Layla Chamberlain. The identity of the person in the black metal suit was Layla Chamberlain, the former administrator of the T&C Special Trade Center. It seems quite comfortable inside the suit if you have time to acquire information. Yes, indeed. Sleeping, eating, doing nothing. It's amazing not to have to do anything. A stark contrast to her nonchalant tone was her mechanical voice. Currently, she was so severely infected with a lethal virus that she couldn't speak without the help of the machine itself. Infecting her with such a deadly virus that even genetic manipulation couldn't cure, she wouldn't survive for more than a few seconds without that life support suit. And Si-hyun, who provided her with the suit, was practically holding Layla's lifeline. I misspoke. Nevertheless, it was Si-hyun who bowed her head instead. Seeing her reaction, Layla found it interesting and spoke as if amused. You're more interesting than I thought. What do you mean? I've seen those who received Shadow's technique become lunatics, without exception. Bloodthirsty killers, warmongers, extreme obsessive patients, and so on. Of course, you're no exception. Thanks for the praise. I'd say I've seen you. How should I put it? You're less noble capitalist than Akira Eugen. Your attitude towards the butler earlier and your attitude towards me are the same. It was necessary. If you want something, you take it without hesitation. Isn't that the principle of the noble capital? Indeed. Though Layla seemed skeptical, Si-hyun was sincere. Within her heart, a goal that she couldn't tell others about was rapidly growing. It wasn't Si-hyun Eugen or Min Sok's goal, but her own. But there was no need to discuss it here. Si-hyun changed the subject. There must be a reason you came to see me. Ah, I forgot. Layla opened the backpack attached to her suit and took out a white mechanical device. It was a partially damaged drone that had lost some of its functionality. I found this while scouting outside. It was almost destroyed, mixed with the rocky clouds. This is a Star Union drone. Why is it here? Seeing the number 98 engraved on the drone surface, Si-hyun felt a strange sensation for some reason. She had a strong intuition that there might be very important information inside that drone. Are there any other drones besides this one? They all seem to have been destroyed after encountering the rocky clouds. I'll have to check if the data information is damaged. Is that okay? There might be important information, so it should be fine. She unplugged a cable from her office desk and connected it to the drone. Soon, shattered holograms began to float above the desk. What is this? And upon examining the contents, the two could only be astonished. Chapter 163. The data carried by the drones consisted of information analyzed and organized by the Star Union's ship computer, along with recording from within the ship. However, due to collisions with fine particles of rock clouds, some of the stored data was lost. Despite being encrypted and incomplete, the intricate data didn't hinder Si-hyun and Layla. Si-hyun, who played the role of Eugen's shadow, had mastered espionage techniques, while Layla, groomed as the family's promising heir, received special training and even wore advanced suits. Both being extraordinary individuals, they could easily decipher the data's contents. A soldier aboard the X-2 class destroyer was killed by 4 unidentified life forms. How could this happen? This information is recorded by the Star Union's ship computer. The possibility of it being false is low. Well, it's still preserved in the footage, so it must be true. The AI capabilities of the Star Union far surpassed that of the Megacorps, while there wasn't much difference in terms of ship operations like route calculations or energy output calculations. The ability to analyze information based on given data was superior on the Star Union side. Si-hyun wondered if even the Yujin family's flagship was utilizing the Star Union's AI. Layla knew this fact, but it was such an unbelievable reality that she merely mentioned it in passing. Currently, they were both reviewing the footage recorded by the drones. Cyborgs and androids were helpless against the assault of the four monsters, perishing without any defense. That D-type creature, could it be a bubble amoeba? It looks quite similar despite the size difference. I'm not sure. I've never heard of a bubble amoeba wielding such strong psychic power. Perhaps it's an experimental specimen from Eden or Zhao. They were known to be interested in bubble amoeba research. Hearing Layla's casual remark, Si-hyun suddenly recalled something. Bubble amoeba, psychic power, experiment. After awakening in the cloning facility, her first recollection was of her memories just before dying. She had been planning to eliminate Akira Yujin's granddaughter, Kasaragi Yujin. Kasaragi Yujin had shown remarkable success in Phoenix and Hulk mutant research. Being crucial to Akira Yujin's grip on power through the Hulk mutant project, she had to be eliminated somehow. Si-hyun had planned to attribute Kasaragi's demise to conspiracies from other families. She succeeded in killing Kasaragi, but everything went awry from that point. The monster aboard the ship where Kasaragi died interfered with her plans. Si-hyun realized that the monster was far superior to the pinnacle of genetic manipulation, the Shadow. Hence, she attempted to capture it alive, but it proved much more formidable than expected. In the fierce battle, she fell victim to an unexpected variable. The bubble amoeba aboard the research vessel. Initially disregarded as insignificant, its presence became crucial at a decisive moment, utilizing psychic power just as seen in the footage. Kisaragi's final research focus was the latent psychic potential from bubble amoebas. Having gathered information to kill her, Si-hyun also remembered what she had studied. What are the chances of a bubble amoeba capable of using psychic power being aboard the ship? While watching Layla, Si-hyun double-checked the information on the drone. Information on both A and B-type creatures among the four was particularly lacking. They seemed to possess concealment abilities as they weren't recorded in the footage. Among them, Si-hyun was interested in the A-type creature. She accessed the information left by the computer regarding the A-type. In summary, the creature had exceptional physical abilities and could produce acidic bodily fluids capable of melting ships. It also exhibited high intelligence and a preference for ambushes. Si-hyun recalled the monster that had killed her as she read the article. It was a creature that carried bubble amoebas, exuding acidic blood, and possessed high intelligence. Thinking about it, there were many similarities between the A-type creature that had annihilated the soldiers of the Star Union and that monster. It seemed to have grown significantly since she last encountered it. That monster. It's still alive after all. In the special trade center of TNC, she felt its presence. At that time, she was transporting bombs and couldn't confront it directly. After the city collapsed, she was convinced that the monster hadn't died. With its high intelligence, she believed it would find a way to escape the city and hide somewhere in space. It was a judgment with some basis in fact. After rescuing Layla's medical ship adrift in space following the city's collapse, Si-hyun learned detailed information about the monster from her. She learned about everything that happened in the city, Layla's research on the monster, and even her ambitions to develop a new type of Hulk mutant. Si-hyun glanced briefly at Layla. There's no need to talk about it right now. The reason why Layla, a noble capital, followed Si-hyun's words was because of vengeance and ambition. Vengeance against the monster that had destroyed her, and the ambition to become the head of TNC using the monster's body. Thanks to these two goals, she could stay alive even though half of her body was a corpse. In that aspect, perhaps we're similar. Having momentarily entertained that thought, Si-hyun checked the date the data was recorded. It was exactly 10 days ago. It had been quite some time, so it would be difficult to find the ship that launched this drone. For now, I'll research this information. She didn't know when she would encounter the monster again. Until then, it was necessary to acquire enough information about it. If only I could obtain that weapon. the ancient relic they were currently searching for. If they could get their hands on it, no matter how intelligent the monster was, they would be able to hunt it down. A quiet flame ignited in Si-Hyun's eyes. "We've found the ship 98. Commander-in-Chief Sonatif of the Nemi fleet shouted loudly, his voice filled with tension. Normally seen wearing casual clothes while piloting his flagship, he was now dressed in a black military uniform. A red emblem was attached to his chest, a badge with a fist in the center surrounded by 12 stars, the symbol of the Star Union. Search complete. Captain confirmed alive inside. The reason he wore the uniform, which he didn't even wear during combat, and even attached the emblem was because of the two entities watching him. Inquiry. Sonatif. Are there any other cyborgs present? Yes. 9 other survivors have been confirmed. The one who asked him was Nemi 5, the top council member of the Star Union and Sonatif's immediate superior, a high-performance android. To Sonatif, Nemi 5 was a difficult superior, but the presence that truly made him nervous was not that android. Report from Nemi 5 received. Sir, shall we commence the operation? Commence it. Grandmaster Chewbacca, head of the Mechanical Assembly and the Supreme Ruler of the Star Union, was observing Sonatif from the capital, Starks 1. Just hearing the mythical presence and the voice of supreme dignity of the Star Union made Sonatif nearly faint. Orders confirmed. Docking operations initiated. Combat units are ready for entry. Orders. Prepare yourselves. Other ships. Deputy of Aero Fleet. Ship's orders confirmed. Target locked. Deputy of Redtail Fleet. Ship's orders confirmed. Target locked. He barely suppressed a sob as he gave the command. The captains of the other ships also responded with curses and acknowledgements over the comms, likely sharing Sonatif's sentiment. Currently, they are conducting a search mission targeting Ship 98, which lost contact 10 days ago. Ship 98, which was supposed to repair its FTL engines upon arrival at the AD-100 galaxy, began erratic behavior after communication was cut off. It was observed even using the damaged FTL engine, reported as broken, to conduct consecutive FTL jumps to other galaxies. Normally, it would have been a problem solved by the Nemi fleet's commander-in-chief Nemi 5, but this time was different. Due to the interest shown by Grandmaster Chewbacca in Ship 98, 3 elite fleets pursued it. And they found Ship 98 in a neutral zone in the galaxy after 10 days. Amidst the bustling trade routes, the 98th ship floated alone. Ship 98, known to be infected by bioships, had the same appearance as the conventional X-2 class destroyer but with a different color. The space around the ship had a dark color like the void, which seemed to indicate severe contamination to anyone's eyes. Docking complete. Initiating boarding. Command confirmed. Permission granted. Sonatif's flagship was attached beside Ship 98. Due to his failure to properly manage his subordinate ships, Sonatif's ship was tasked with directly searching the interior of the ship. The other fleets, except for him, aimed at the 98th ship from a distance. If anything unusual happened, their cannons would fire immediately. All signals detected in the control room. Bio signals are all stable. No special deviations. Search thoroughly. We don't know what might come out. Yes, Grand. Alright. Sir. The real-time footage from the androids and walkers aboard Ship 98 was transmitted to each flagship and the Grandmaster. Sonatif also monitored his subordinates' movements through cables connected to his neck. Inside the ship, a gas containing hazardous chemicals was densely spread like mist. As the subordinates adjusted the cameras, moving biological tissues were visible throughout the ship. Seeing this, Chewbacca murmured. Nemi 5. Save everything without exception. Nemi 5 responding. Currently saving. Don't worry, Chairman. The subordinates at the scene, unable to hear their conversation, quickly searched the ship. Soon, they arrived at the control room. That. Seeing the scene inside the control room filmed by the subordinates, Sonatif was horrified. The control room, with its rigid and rough design, was gone. In its place were tentacles resembling blood vessels, constantly swelling and bursting pods, and disgusting biological pipes emitting toxic mist. It was less of a control room and more of a nest. A nest of horrifying and disgusting creatures. In that abominable dwelling, There were Captain Kane and 8 cyborgs from the 98th ship they had been looking for. They were firmly tied up by hardened tentacles, hanging from the walls and ceiling. We found Captain Kane and 8 crew members. No casualties so far. Command. Confirm. One walker approached Kane, who was stuck to the wall. But as the walker got closer, Kane started writhing. What's? Suddenly, why? What's going on? The heart rate of the ship's captain is increasing. Even though his face was entwined with tentacles, he somehow managed to open his mouth wide and shouted, "Get out of here right now. This ship." Cough. He vomited blood profusely and then bowed his head deeply. At the same time, the biosignal of Kane, being monitored by Sonatif, also turned black. The captain of Ship 98 has died. Dead. Why all of a sudden? Wait. Could it be? Having seen Kane's death, Chewbacca urgently shouted as if something had occurred to him. Everyone retreat. Get away from Ship 98. Before Chewbacca could finish his sentence, a massive light burst from the engine room of Ship 98. Sonatif could never know that it was because of a bomb installed in the engine room. Big guy, what's wrong? Number 26 asked me as I suddenly moved my head. Zzzzzzzzzzzzz, it's nothing. Don't worry. Yeah? Zzzzzzzzz, is it uncomfortable because it's narrow? No. I'm really happy being close to big guy, middle guy and little guy all together. Zzzzzzzzz, that's fortunate. As number 26 said, Adha and Mother of the Sky were tightly attached to my gigantic body. It really is cramped. It was an unavoidable choice to escape from the Star Union's pursuit. 3 days ago, I abandoned Ship 98 of the Star Union and switched to a new one. The reason was that after scouring through the ship's computer records after corroding the ship, I discovered that Captain Kane had launched a rescue drone. Because of his pointless actions, things got complicated. To evade the Star Union's pursuit, I had to switch ships as soon as the Horizon of Nightmares cooldown ended. Since acquiring a new ship in the vastness of space was no easy task, I had no choice but to change plans and go to a galaxy with many trading ships to find a new one. Thanks to that, it's taking longer than originally planned. I wanted to kill Kane for practically wasting a week, but I held back. Instead, I thought of a suitable punishment for Kane, considering how to give him a punishment that would spread rumors of my vengeance. The parasitic bait trap operation. I ordered the cyborgs to manufacture bombs, and I implanted sensors in their bodies. If their hearts stopped, the bombs would detonate automatically. After abandoning the ship, I tied up all 9 cyborgs in the control room and installed bombs in the engine room. If the Star Union comes looking for me, the parasitized cyborgs would do anything to escape. Their actions would go against my intentions, but the reinforced parasites would exact revenge on them. And when the cyborgs die, boom! Thanks to the enhanced infection type, the parasites could survive without me for about 5 to 6 days. While the parasite replacement itself posed no problem, I attached symbiotic spores just in case they starved to death. After completing all the tasks, I could finally leave the 98th ship with peace of mind. And today, 3 days later, I felt the parasites regenerating inside my body again. The fact that all 9 parasites died simultaneously meant that the bombs had exploded. My plan had succeeded. They found me later than I thought. If I knew, I would have gotten a better ship. The ship I corroded was a cargo ship purchased from a neutral galaxy where no faction had a presence. It was a ship Mother of the Sky, disguised as a wolf, went out and bought. Funds were obtained by selling the drones and androids installed on the ship. I didn't bother capturing a passing ship because they would think of me as a bio ship and never imagine that I would buy and move around in a ship. Even if a player intervened in my pursuit, it wouldn't matter. In fact, as a player, they would have a harder time finding me. They'll know me as a morph. A morph is a species with which conversation and negotiations are impossible. They wouldn't even dream of me having 3 friends. Things went according to plan, but I'm a bit disappointed with the ship. At that time, I hastily acquired a ship because I didn't know when the pursuit team would arrive. As a result, the ship we boarded was barely over 60 meters in size. My body is well over 25 meters, so 60 meters is Moreover, since we needed food while moving, I packed combat rations for cyborgs and energy drinks purchased from the neutral galaxy tightly. As a result, there was hardly any space left, so we had to stick together tightly like this. I'm glad number 26 can shrink its body. The little one, who had shrunk to about 50 centimeters in size, was dozing off on top of my head. Big one? Me. Hungry. Zzzzzzz, just wait a moment. Adha, the Gagon navigator of this ship, was lying on her stomach on top of my tail. I generated a suction tentacle and handed her the energy drinks. Thank you. With a brief thanks, she inserted the tentacle into the energy drink and sucked it up eagerly. Unlike the calorie banana-flavored cyborg combat rations, the apple cider-flavored energy drink was quite palatable. I should have gotten a bigger ship. Lastly, Mother of the Sky. She returned in her wolf form and was tightly attached to my side. She kept tossing and turning, making the claws and thorns on my carapace uncomfortable. I need to help her out a bit. I slightly adjusted the ship's structure to create space so that she could lie comfortably. Zzzzzzzzz, how is it? I appreciate it, but aren't you uncomfortable like this? I don't feel uncomfortable because I've merged with the ship. I envy that a bit. It might be uncomfortable, but bear with it for a month and a half. She sighed softly at my words. With that, our conversation ended. As I prepared to focus on superluminal navigation again, she spoke softly. Thanks for caring. Zzzzz, mention not. Expressing her gratitude, she seemed to feel proud and soon closed her eyes. After a while, I heard her gentle breathing. Leaving Mother of the Sky asleep, I continued with the superluminal navigation. Chapter 164. Capital of the Star Union, Starks 1. In a place characterized by densely packed factories, vast smog, and incessant acidic rain, there exists a peculiar structure. White and black spires intertwined with numerous pipes, batteries, and machines of all sizes adorned the exterior, forming an imposing pyramid of spikes when gathered together. This eerie and awe-inspiring structure is known as Prime Head, where the highest echelons of the Star Union's power apparatus, the machine assembly, reside. At the summit of the tallest spire, Prime Head, lies the office of the Grandmaster, the progenitor overseer of all cyborgs. Though typically a space of solemnity and austerity, today was different. Within the tightly sealed office, multiple voices could be heard speaking in succession. You've suffered considerable losses, but ultimately failed. That's correct. A Caucasian man with one eye replaced by machinery conversed in front of 4 diamond obelisks. Adorned with a meticulously groomed mustache alongside a robust muscular physique, he was none other than the patriarch of the Star Union, Chewbacca. So far, the known enhancements involve bodily modifications. And it seems the ability to integrate with ships is also present. It's fortunate we could confirm that this time. Chewbacca, you've done a great job. Akira. How did you come across this information? Chewbacca had to suffer significant losses, all due to the Ranked 5 Amorph and his friends. The Nemi fleet was almost decimated, and the Arrow and Red Tail fleets that supported him suffered considerable damage too. And that's not all. Due to his meddling, Star Union's relations with the cult deteriorated significantly. It was only natural, considering his reckless invasion of cult territory and the destruction of Imperial battleships. This incident often brought up talks of war between the Star Union and the cult. To avoid a fruitless war, Chewbacca had to send envoys to the cult council to apologize. Noble Capital Megacorp and Chloe Garmalda exerted pressure on the cult reformists to support Chewbacca. Thanks to them, an all-out war between the cult and the Star Union was averted. However, this incident greatly tarnished the Star Union's utmost dignity. Due to just one Amorph, Chewbacca, who had been thoroughly humiliated, couldn't contain his irritation. In response to his enraged words, Akira replied nonchalantly, "Did you really think it would be that easy to capture him? You still don't know him well. Be thankful the entire fleet wasn't annihilated." TCH. Akira, could the enhancement of bodily modifications possibly be obtained from Muriel? Well, I'm not sure. We should be cautious about that aspect. It's likely he possesses between 2 to 3 enhancements. What's the point of investigating his enhancements now when all traces of him have vanished? Wasn't his biometric sample recorded in Starlink? We could track him based on that. It seems the data's been tampered with. Scanners can't confirm anything anymore. It was fine until we chased after Ship 98. Upon hearing rumors of suspicious organisms discovered by the Star Union supply line, Chewbacca immediately took action. Syncing the amorph sample registered in Starlink, the proprietary information processing system of the Star Union, with a bioscanner, and additionally, with the Warp Finder, a superluminal navigation tracking system. Thanks to utilizing all available means at the Patriarch's disposal, tracking the amorph wasn't difficult. In fact, until the discovery of Ship 98, the main concern was distance and time, as locating the entity itself was rather straightforward. The issue lay in the trap it posed. It's likely due to the impure mixture related to the nest's characteristics. It possesses the ability to randomly alter the nest's composition, making tracking impossible. Damn it. You should have mentioned that earlier. Heh, don't be angry. Didn't we learn something new because of it? We discovered that it's possible to create an environment identical to the nest within a battleship. Then it's reasonable to assume it can utilize other abilities. When Chewbacca discovered the entity, he relayed the information to the other members. At that time, Akira merely laughed and said nothing. But now, judging from his tone, it seemed he had anticipated this outcome. He likely used Chewbacca as bait to verify his conjecture. It's not a situation to remain calm about, Akira. We've lost track of it. It means the next encounter with it could be even more perilous. Indeed, the entity that departed from the 98th Fleet seemed to vanish completely, like a ghost. Despite meticulously scouring neutral territories, no trace related to the entity remained. Is it difficult to locate it with the Warp Finder? The last known location of Ship 98 was within neutral territories. With ships zipping in and out at the speed of light, finding it there is impossible. Of course, it would be difficult if it doesn't know the model of the ship it boarded. Based on the currently available information, the amorph contaminated the ship and seems to possess dominating abilities. It might be able to modify ships, but it was still traceable with the Warp Finder, except for changes in the ship's type as Akira mentioned. We tried to find any attack ships, but there was no information related to the entity. Could it be that the Ranked 5 made a deal and purchased a ship? Whether it's for the Essence collection or bringing along comrades. Nonsense. To call such a personality a comrade? Ha, absurd. Hey, it's been a while since Shinsha cracked an amusing joke. All present had fought the Rank 5 amorph at least once. They were well acquainted with his dread, but there were discrepancies in the information they possessed. For instance, while Shinsha had only fought the Ranked 5 twice, Chewbacca had faced him about 8 times. And Akira, with a higher rank than both, had faced him many more times. As a result, Shinsha had relatively limited knowledge about 5th. If it's him, he might use comrades as bait or dominate them like parasites. If the amorph is with him, that's entirely plausible. In that case, he could control cyborgs as parasites to purchase a ship. Of course, we've considered and are investigating that as well. The problem is it takes a lot of time. Currently, high-performance androids are thoroughly investigating all trade records within neutral territories. It might take a month to find out, but in the meantime, 5th might switch ships again. At that moment, Akira spoke up. Perhaps there's no need to chase after it relentlessly, is there? What do you mean? If we know where it'll go, can't we prepare in advance? Because you don't know, that's why you're talking nonsense, Akira. No need to be so impatient. Listen. Just like in a game, he dislikes wasting time. If he's become a larva, he'll want to evolve into an adult as quickly as possible. I see. The fastest way for him to fulfill his evolution conditions is to capture what's called an apex, a special organism. Then he'll aim for places where many apexes reside. Are you referring to the Gagon's nest? Akira didn't respond to Shinsha's question. Instead, a space map appeared from his obelisk, showing various projected routes from where the entity had moved. These are speculative routes and calculations based on the direction and path the entity took. It indicates that it continued in a certain direction until it abruptly changed course when it entered neutral territories. And what does that mean? If it wasn't being pursued, it would have continued in this direction. Damn it. Get to the point. What are you trying to say? If it continues in this direction, it'll lead to the Galagon's nest. What? A red marker appeared near the outer edges of the space map. It's where the Eugen family stores Galagon genes and where my old subordinate resides. But how does he know to go there when it's not even marked on the map? I don't know either. But if it's him, he'll definitely target this planet. Chewbacca eyed the red marker. Since it wasn't a recorded planet, no information appeared at that location. If he's heading here, contact the old subordinate. A larva-like a morph stands. No chance against them. And who exactly are you so sure of? Hehe, would it help if I said an aged black Galagon? Upon hearing that, Chewbacca was taken aback. Black Galagon is the second highest stage in the Galagon growth hierarchy. Beyond that are the red Galagons, but they're so rare that they're hardly ever seen. In other words, Black Galagon is arguably the most formidable among wild Galagons. If it's a black Galagon, then a morph, no matter how powerful it has gotten, won't stand a chance against it. Not only is the black Galagon powerful itself, but it also has its entire nest to contend with. Akira, may I inform Jason of the coordinates of that location? He expressed a strong desire to rectify this situation. Ahehe, then the certainty of his death will be even more assured. Go ahead. And now, even cult player Jason was involved. Jason's ranking is 10th. Though lower in rank than Akira or Chewbacca, he's a skilled player in his own right. With the Black Galagon and a 10th ranked player involved, the fate of the Amorph and his party was practically sealed. With a few more adjustments, the meeting concluded. Confirming that the obelisks were deactivated, Chewbacca picked up the activated communication device. You've heard everything up to now, right? That damn inspiration. Always using others. After learning about Akira's spy, Chloe made various excuses to avoid participating in the obelisk meeting. Instead, she relied on Chewbacca's assistance to eavesdrop on the meeting. Chloe, I have a favor to ask. I'm thinking of sending Pyra 11 Screamer Unit. What? We'll justify it as a clinical experiment to assess operational capabilities. Just a moment. Chewbacca, they're still prototypes. They're in an incomplete state, so who knows what errors might occur. Anyway, don't you need Amorph genes to complete your plan? It's not a bad condition, is it? It would certainly be helpful, but moreover, if that planet is where Galagon genes are collected, it's even better. If the Galagons accidentally die while fighting Amorph, it could also deal a blow to Akira. That does sound appealing. Send the newly updated Hulk mutants. Convert them into screamers and send them immediately. Chewbacca had never let anyone who had attacked him go unpunished. Whether in the real world or in this dystopian world, he had no intention of forgiving Akira or his associates who had properly crossed him. Repay them all. Chewbacca's mechanical eyes flickered menacingly as he spoke to Chloe. ZZZ, there? Blue. Star. Ring. Confirmed. Nest. Affirmative. Understanding Ahei's telepathic communication from outside the spacecraft, I was on the verge of cheering. It's been a long time. Thanks to traveling non-stop for a month and 10 days on a cramped ship, we finally arrived at the planet where the Galagon's nest was located. Before us lay a sky-blue planet reminiscent of the ocean. The planet had rings like Saturn, formed by rocky debris orbiting the planet due to its gravity. Seeing the beautiful sky-blue planet and the pale rings orbiting it felt like admiring a well-decorated aquamarine ornament. I'd like to explore more, but both my companions and I were starving. We ran out of provisions 2 days ago. Since we hadn't seen any other ships or creatures for a long time, finding new food was impossible. In that situation, we had no choice but to continue onward. If Adha had made even a small mistake in the coordinates, we could have been in big trouble. If he had miscalculated the coordinates, we might have wandered and starved to death in this remote place. Damn Amorph. I almost experienced a death that I had never encountered even in the game. Let's go down and replenish our supplies first. I prepared to enter the nameless blue planet. After bringing Adha inside from outside, I increased the speed of our movement. As the distance to the planet decreased, the appearance of the rings became clearer. From ordinary rocks and ice fragments to unidentified metal chunks and fragments of spacecraft from unknown origins, numerous objects were flying together in the same direction. If it were a creature with intact skin, it would have been torn to shreds upon entering those rings, but I am not an ordinary creature. I effortlessly caught the fragments pouring over the outer wall, a mix of metallic and biological tissues. Passing through the rings without much difficulty, I quickly approached the planet's atmosphere. Unlike Earth and the Moon, which have various colors such as blue seas, brown land, and white clouds, this planet was uniformly colored. Sky blue and white. That was all this planet had. An ice planet. Even in the game, regions where Galagons inhabit are extreme, much like the planet before me. Constant volcanic activity creating a hellish landscape, or sub-zero temperatures plunging into an icy hell. Extreme environmental conditions were one of the factors that made it difficult to deal with Galagons. It doesn't concern me, but I'm not sure about the others. According to Adha, except for the Galagon's nest, the temperatures in the other areas of the planet were very low. Normally, she said she should have frozen to death not long after being abandoned by her kind. Except for number 26, which inhabited the deep sea, the journey ahead would be quite difficult for the others. As I pondered these thoughts, my body was swiftly passing through the atmosphere. After pushing through the dense clouds, what came into my view was an endless expanse of ice. Chapter 165. Hey, isn't it too cold? Cold. 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 As expected, Adha and the Mother of the Sky began to shiver fiercely in the biting cold. And if that was not enough, currently, everyone was in a state of hunger as well. It will be difficult to maintain the temperature with this spaceship. After the corrosion tentacles were released, the spaceship was completely destroyed. Not only the engines but also the metal walls that made up the hull were completely corroded. If a storm were to hit in this state, the ship would be shattered into pieces. We need to hurry and find food and shelter. ZZZZZZZZZ, please help everyone. Just trust me. I asked the most intact number 26 among them to take care of the others and stepped out of the spaceship. The land covered in snow welcomed me. As I moved my combat arms, the thick layer of snow was swept away, revealing the ice underneath. Smooth and shiny ice without a single crack. On its surface, the pristine state of me, without utilizing the characteristic of organic evolution, was reflected. With 6 sturdy horns and a slender head reminiscent of a crocodile or a large cephalopod, beneath it, countless tentacles of monsters fluttered like fins. Under the swaying tentacles and the wind, there were sturdy carapaces mixed with synthetic scales, wrapping around the body and 6 combat arms, 2 small arms near the chest. Finally, beneath the ice, not reflected in it, a large, long tail that replaced my lower body was partially buried in the snow. Only the pincers at the end of the tail and the spikes attached inside them were poking out above the snow. I sprinted across the snow-covered plain with a huge body ranging between 27 meters and 28 meters. The traces I left behind disappeared instantly thanks to the snow and hail constantly falling. If I didn't have auxiliary devices, I would have been lost in no time. The mountain range in the distance, should I go there? No, it's too far. Instead, I stopped running and looked down at my feet. Among the creatures inhabiting the ice planet, there is a species that lives beneath the ice. Even under ice so thick that its thickness cannot be determined, life exists. There is a void under this ice. Confirming this fact through my auxiliary organs, I raised the pincers at the end of my tail upwards. I focused on the sensation of exerting strength on the muscles of my whole body. Then, the scales and carapaces covering my body began to glow red. It was the effect of the heat emission characteristic obtained from the previous Star Union supply line. Originally, it was a cold-blooded temperature regulation characteristic. Unlike the original characteristic that simply warms the body when acquired by an amorph, it can convert internal energy into heat to emit strong heat like now. The thickness of this ice is over tens of meters, and it is incredibly hard. With my physical abilities, I could easily dig through it with my bare hands, but it would take a lot of time. Although the situation is energy deficient. Since I need to find shelter and food as soon as possible, investing energy now is the best option. As the ice I stood on melted, steam rose. The thickest pincers and head carapace of the carapace on my body shone brightly like heated iron. I think this is enough. I struck the ice with the hot pincers of the golden tail. As the hot pincers collided with the ground, immense heat and steam spewed out. With a grinding sound, the thick ice melted rapidly. Somehow, it sounded like when you put pork belly on a hot grill. Sigh. Seems like I'm really hungry. Having regained my appetite, I pulled out my tail from the ice hole. Inside the deep hole, there was only darkness. Using the blunt claws scattered throughout my combat arms and body, I dug into the hole. Thanks to the heat emitted from my body and the melting ice, it wasn't difficult to enlarge the hole. After digging several hundred meters further down, the space suddenly widened. I finally arrived at the underground space under the ice. I hung on to the ice ceiling and looked down below. Although nothing was visible due to the lack of light, thanks to the auxiliary devices, I could clearly feel the structure of this place. The temperature in the underground space was higher than above, and there was soil and ice on the common floor. There are living organisms here too. From the darkness beyond, the sounds of wriggling life could be heard. I utilized the suction cups attached to the fingertips to cling upside down to the ceiling and moved. Not far from my position, there is a gathering of creatures. They are alert, emitting unique ultrasound waves to survey their surroundings. Cave goyle. Cave goyle are creatures that live in underground colonies or very deep caves. They look like a combination of bats and primates, enlarged to about 3 meters in size. Their vision has completely degraded, so they use special ultrasonic waves like bats to identify objects. They probably realized by now that I am in this colony. They're extremely vigilant. With a massive monster looming around 30 meters, crawling on the ice ceiling, it's understandable they would be terrified. If I approach a little closer, they'll probably all flee. But right now, I have a way to deal with them. 5 faces dormant on my back. I mainly use these faces to acquire and deceive enemy information, but the effect of this characteristic is also useful in combat. I can paralyze enemies by emitting powerful ultrasound waves. The more developed their hearing, the more lethal the damage. If they were without ears, it wouldn't affect them at all, but in this pitch-black space, creatures having bow ears are probably non-existent, hence he woke up all the faces. The 5 faces bound by my will all opened their eyes simultaneously. Black veins protruded on their pale, horrified faces. Eventually, when they opened their mouths wide, a second mouth in the shape of a vortex protruded outward. From that mouth, equipped with tooth-like protrusions, powerful ultrasound waves were emitted. Since the space was enclosed, the ultrasound attack was more effective than usual. My scales, emitting ultrasound, trembled, indicating its tremendous effect. As I expected, chaos erupted among the cave goyles below. Cake. Cake. Gagon. Cake. The organs for detecting ultrasound must have all burst as a strong smell of blood permeated the air. In human terms, it's equivalent to losing both sight and hearing simultaneously. The cave goyle group fell into panic and started attacking each other. Confirming that the enemies were in disarray, I leapt towards the ground. My body, nearly 30 meters long, soared through the air and fell onto them. Quang. Kick. 6 cave goyles lying on my body died instantly. The cave goyles that hadn't fallen on me rushed at me. Although I couldn't hear, it must have been due to the impact of my landing on the ground. 1 cave goyle on my back swung its hands down, aiming for my carapace. Cave goyles are strong enough to tear apart intermediate reinforcement suits with their bare hands. So they're often used as Hulk mutant materials. For other creatures, it would be an attack that would instantly shatter their entire body. However, my carapace remained unscathed with only a few scratches. Cake. They probably anticipated blood and flesh, but the sensation felt strange at their fingertips, so the goyle tilted its head. I bent my lower body and tail upwards. The pincer at the end of the tail grabbed the goyle. Kung. When I applied force like that, the goyle's body went limp. Its hot blood and entrails spilled onto my back. After that, it was a breeze. Within a few minutes, 10 cave goyles all met their demise. Although the smell of blood spread throughout the underground space, there were no creatures revealing themselves. Judging this place to be safe, I finally relaxed. The scent of hot blood and fresh meat tickled my auxiliary devices in the chilly air. Feeling the delicious smell of meat in my hungry state, even I involuntarily salivated. Should I just eat one before leaving? Since no one is chasing me, it shouldn't matter if I eat and leave. Many thoughts raced through my mind, but I deliberately turned away. I retraced my steps along the icy path. As I traversed the long stretch of ice and ascended upwards, there was no difference from before. The incessant snowfall, hail, not figurative, but literally sharp winds that could cut through flesh. In this world where everything remained the same, I relied on my auxiliary devices to find the direction of the spaceship. Amidst the wind as sharp as blades, there was a hint of metal smell. I followed the scent emanating from the spaceship. Before long, I spotted a bluntly protruding pile of snow. Even though not much time had passed, the snow had already piled up to the extent that the spaceship was almost invisible. Approaching closer, I heard the transmission of number 26 from inside the spaceship. Big guy? ZZZZZZZZZZZZZZ, I have found food and shelter. Wow. So fast. Amazing. ZZZZZ, follow me. Shortly after, I heard the sound of metal crumpling from within the pile of snow, then the snow heap exploded as if blown apart. Revealed on the white snow was number 26, enlarged to a size of 10 meters. Ugh, please tell me we're not far. Cold. Hungry. Cold. Hungry. Upon closer inspection, I saw that both the Mother of the Sky and Adha were tightly hugging number 26, buried deep in the soft, slimy body, shivering except for their heads. From my experience, 26's body temperature was always constant regardless of the surrounding temperature. So, placing it on my head or shoulder always gave a pleasantly cool sensation. Would it feel warmer in such a cold place like this? Seeing them shivering here, I wondered if it would feel warm instead. If we lingered here any longer, both of them might suffer. I guided them into the hole dug underground. As number 26 and I braved the snowstorm, suddenly, Adha sent out a warning telepathic wave. Adult. Young adult. Danger. ZZZ, Adha. I. Kin. Detection. Sky. Flight. Tracking. Huh. I sense something similar to the little one over there. Fascinating. Trembling while emitting sense waves, Adha. Then number 26 also spoke similar words to Adha's. Kin. I looked up and glanced at the sky. Beyond the incessant snow and hail, all I could see was thick gray clouds. I urgently called out to the Mother of the Sky. The Mother of the Sky also seemed to sense that something was amiss as she turned her head upward. Her pumpkin-colored pupils slowly moved and then rapidly expanded upon reaching the vicinity of the mountains. It's a white Gagon. It's flying in this direction. ZZZZZZZZZZZZ, hurry up. Everyone, get on top of me. Seeing the trembling Adha, it didn't seem like they were coming here with good intentions. I placed number 26, who was holding the children, on top of me. Confirming that number 26 had firmly grasped onto my body with its tentacles, I dashed at full speed. ZZZZZZZ, hold on tight. Wow. With all 6 of my combat arms and blunt claws scattered throughout my body shot forward like a projectile from a cannon. While running, I asked the Mother of the Sky. ZZZZZZZZZZZZZZ, where could it have come to by now? If it's at this speed, within 5 minutes? No, within 3 minutes, it'll pass over us. Even while soaring high, the white Gagon can still see us. Though it's still far away, it might not be long before it discovers our location while flying around this area. Traces will quickly disappear due to the snow, but it's not the same for the hole. Since the entrance is so large, it will take a while for the snow to cover it up. I have to block it. Arriving at the hole leading underground in an instant, I first pushed 26 inside. ZZZZZZZZZZZ, when you go down below, start filling up the stomach first. Isn't the big one coming down? ZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZ I'll come down soon. I'll come down soon. I'll come down. After reassuring number 26, I covered the entrance of the hole with my body. Then, I extended my corroding tentacles to gather the piled up snow around and scattered it over my body. Only after the snow piled up on my body did I retract the corroding tentacles. After finishing everything, I held my breath, and then I heard an alien sound of wind from above. It was very faint and subtle, but it was clearly the sound of wings flapping. The sound came and went slowly. He's here. The great beast known as the Dragon of the Universe was circling around me. Chapter 166. Originally, Gagon didn't flap its wings frequently. It only flapped its wings when flying from the ground like a bird or a dragon, and once it reached a certain altitude, it glided. When it grows beyond the stage of a green Gagon, it becomes capable of flight using psychic power, lifting its body. In the case of Adha, its wings are well developed compared to its body, so it often uses its wings, but that doesn't mean it can't fly using psychic power. It can also fly at incredibly high speeds or even travel through space with its super acceleration ability. So, what does the sound of flapping wings overhead mean? Are you looking for me? The creature was currently flying low, circling the area, as if searching for something. Do I need to fight? The only enemy within my cognitive range is the white Gagon. With my transcendent abilities gained through the Junseed system, I could easily defeat a white Gagon. Yet, I didn't move hastily. Not yet. This is Gagon's territory. A planet where numerous Galagons form groups and live. Killing just one white Gagon here wouldn't end everything. Galagons are highly aggressive creatures. While Adha is unique, Galagons in their original state, like dragons in mythology, are greedy and combative. The fight doesn't end until either the entire group is wiped out or the leader of the group is defeated. If I were to fight that white Gagon, most likely other kin would come to its aid. If by chance a black Gagon were among the reinforcements, it would be nearly impossible for me to win. What if I could kill the white Gagon in one strike? Galagons have keen eyesight, but they're more sensitive to psychic power than anyone else. If I were to gather energy to use divine lashes or psychic breath, it would notice immediately. Apart from these two characteristics, I have no means to deal with it in one blow. So after thorough preparation, I have to fight them. I waited without moving, holding my breath. The sound of flapping wings circling around me grew louder. Eventually, a faint vibration echoed from a nearby snowfield. The average length of a white Gagon is 20 meters. With its massive wings, it would appear much larger than me from a distance. The landing of such a huge beast made an unbelievably small sound. Thanks to the psychic power flowing through its body, its weight felt light. The creature that landed began to move. What's it doing? Since my body was hidden beneath the snow, I couldn't see it, but thanks to auxiliary devices, I could discern its movements. It lowered its head and felt around with tentacles that extended like whiskers. Oh no. If it comes a bit closer, it'll notice I'm hiding under the snow. It would be much better to strike from here first. No, I need to assess the situation more carefully. Engaging in a fight with that white Gagon would inevitably lead to a direct confrontation with other Galagons. They would begin searching as soon as they realize their comrade is missing. With their excellent cognitive abilities and memory, they would quickly find me. As I pondered, the creature was gradually drawing closer. The distance between it and me was barely 10 meters. My body was deeply buried in the snow, so the creature wouldn't know unless it stepped on me, but it would surely notice then. Darn it. There's no more time for hesitation. I'll ambush and kill it before it gets to me, then leave this place. If I move through the underground passage, I might buy some time. With that decision made, I waited for the creature to come just one step closer. Just as its foot was about to touch the snow, it stopped dead in its tracks. Why is it acting like that? The creature remained motionless. In the same posture, not making a move. I kept my focus on its movements, staying tense. Its tentacles swayed in a steady rhythm. Initially, I thought it was because of the wind, but it seemed otherwise. It looks like it's conversing, similar to Adha. It seemed like the creature stopped its search upon hearing something from another Gagon. I wanted to eavesdrop on their conversation using the monster's tentacles, but it was impossible. They must have a communication channel of their own. After a brief pause, the creature spread its wings wide and flew off into the sky. Even though it left, I stayed still for a while longer. Galagons are intelligent creatures. It might have been pretending to leave while preparing for an ambush. After waiting for about 30 minutes, I finally felt confident that the area was safe. Phew. I got up and brushed the snow off, then scratched the ice next to the hole with my nails. It just needed to be big enough to cover the hole, thickness didn't matter. After cutting the ice into the right size, I placed it over the hole when going down. This should keep me safe. Flying creatures wouldn't bother digging through every patch of snow. After finishing up, I crawled down the ice tunnel. As I descended underground, I felt the movements of 3 beings. The largest one, number 26, greeted me and emitted waves. Big guy, why did it take you so long? ZZZZZZZZZ, I had a lot to do. I saved some food. Eat quickly since you'll be hungry. ZZZ, thank you. The creature picked up some cave goyle meat with its tentacles and offered it to me. Out of the 10 pieces remaining, 4 were left. It was probably considerate of me, knowing that I would expend a lot of energy due to my movements. I gratefully accepted the meat and took a bite. Despite being cold, the cave goyle's meat was surprisingly tasty. It's a bit tougher in texture, like cold soy sauce chicken. The texture was similar to pork rinds, but the taste was like soy sauce chicken. It was a strange combination, but not unpleasant, so I enjoyed it. As I chewed on the lower half of the cave goyle, the voice of the mother of the sky called out to me. What about the white Gagon? ZZZZZZZZZZZZZZ, it left because another one called it. Thank goodness. I'm not ready yet, so it would have been tough to fight now. The mother of the sky murmured earnestly. Having fought Galagons herself, she knew well how to strategize against them. You can ask Adha about the characteristics and culture of the group. The problem lies with the leader. ZZZ, got it. She spoke with sharp eyes. Her appearance was the same as usual as long as she wasn't sticking only her head out while cuddling with number 26. This underground space has a relatively high temperature, but it's still a harsh environment. Except for creatures that have undergone special evolution, it's not easy to adapt here. Adha mentioned that their nest is located in some ice valley where geothermal heat rises. From his words alone, it seemed to be one of the few habitable places on this harsh planet. So, intentionally landing away from the nest caused this problem. Before I could tackle the Galagons, I had to figure out how to deal with the cold. The nest's location is over here, and the distance is considerable. ZZZZZZZZ, looks like it's cold. Huh? Oh, yeah, kinda. ZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZ, speaking only with your head sticking out like a chick. A chick. Whether my expression was offensive or not, the mother of the sky's feathers stood on end. She squinted her pumpkin-colored eyes at me, but cuddling with the pink balloon as if it were a doll didn't pose any threat at all. Big guy, what's a chick? ZZZZZZZZZZZZ, it means a baby bird. I don't know what a bird is, but I know what a baby is. Tiny creatures are babies. ZZZZZ, that's right. So, because the middle one is a baby, it's called that. Am I right? ZZZZ, smart. After overhearing the conversation between me and number 26, she shivered but soon sighed. Phew, I thought it would be fine because of my griffin form, but I didn't expect it to be this cold. ZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZ I need your help. Yeah. ZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZ you're probably the one who knows there's a way. The mother of the sky nodded at my words. All the players who visited this world received something that didn't exist in the game called a bonus. Just as Muriel could transform into other races as a cyborg, the Mother of the Sky also possessed a bonus that transcended the limits of her race. Could it be that she can transform into other mythical creatures? Originally, wolves are fixed as one type of animal capable of transformation after ascending to godhood. Their basic gameplay involves learning characteristics in that state and accumulating divine power. However, the Mother of the Sky can surpass this limit due to the bonus she received. If certain conditions are met, she has the ability to transform into different animals. It seems similar to unlocking new abilities with each condition fulfilled. Like me, who gains unique characteristics by using traits as ingredients, she can transform into a new animal each time she hunts and consumes the target demanded in the text box. Moreover, even without transforming, she can apply some of the abilities and passive effects of the respective animal to the griffin's body. Currently, she can transform into another mythical creature besides the griffin. Her formidable close combat ability comes from the power received from that animal. Before meeting me, she used it when fighting Muriel. I already heard from her what animal she transforms into. It's a powerful transformation mode, but its long cooldown compared to its short duration is a major drawback. If it's that mythical beast, it makes sense. Anyway, it seems like I need to unlock a new animal for her at this opportunity. It's to be able to transform into an animal immune to the cold considering the adverse condition. ZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZ As a reward for unlocking it, you can obtain the frostbite attack and cold immunity traits. ZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZz. Are you sure about this? ZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZ. Right now, what I need is a companion. Even if the reason for contracting with the Mother of the Sky is for the reward for ascending, it's useless if she doesn't reach maturity. And if I really intend to use her as a sacrifice, her level of godhood needs to be higher now. To achieve that, her survival rate must be increased. In short, her getting stronger is beneficial for me. You've changed a lot too. ZZZZZZZ, have I? She didn't say anything more, but judging by her eyes, it didn't seem like she meant it with negative intentions. Before tackling the Galagons, there seemed to be two goals. First, it's urgent to gather the traits and information necessary for dragon hunting. I need to examine if there's terrain suitable for luring enemies and launching ambushes and understand the ecosystem here. Since this planet is not from the game, I lack a lot of information. Although I heard from Adha before coming, I still need to see and confirm it myself. The second is to unlock the Mother of the Sky's transformation ability. I haven't played as a wolf before, but I've fought many. I know what ingredients are needed for the Wendigo transformation. I'm not sure if it will be the same as the game, but judging by my precedent, I think the conditions for transforming into a Wendigo will be almost the same as in the game. Let's leave the planning at this point. I glanced around the dim surroundings once. Before going outside, I need to remodel this underground space. To become a morph's nest. Chapter 167. Dad, are you not busy today? No, today I've prepared to go to a special place with our little darling. A special place? Yes. We're going straight to Mom's shooting location. Wow. Really? Oh, but didn't Mom say not to come? This time let's throw a surprise party for Mom. How about that? Haha, sounds fun. I want to go. Someone help. Our child is stuck under the car. The engine is on fire, it's dangerous. Step back. No. This can't be happening. If only you hadn't taken him that day, none of this would have happened. And are you blaming me for that now? Do you know who will pay for the expensive medical bills? Huh, medical bills? You don't even care about the child. Ah. Teacher. Switch seats with me. This kid smells. Hey, isn't there a weird smell coming from somewhere? UW. There goes a stink bug. If you're not feeling well enough to come to school, why don't you just stay home? Rather than just expecting understanding from friends, shouldn't you consider changing yourself? Ugh, did I just see a monster? Me too. Wow, I thought today was Halloween. Poor thing. If I were like that, I'd rather bite my tongue and die. Poor thing. Disgusting. Why live? Monster. Huh. As I opened my eyes, a slightly chilly yet humid air greeted me. Sensations that had been dormant stirred back to life, and I felt the lukewarm liquid flowing on the floor. A dream. Since arriving in this world, I rarely dreamed. At most, I might have had fantasies when evolving or utilizing the Transcendence system. Is it because of the memories I saw when I reached Transcendence Level 2? Memories from when I was a child. Days spent in the intensive care unit because of burns. It was a past I didn't want to recall. Phew. I had been forgetting about the events in the real world lately, but remembering them now makes me feel uneasy. The next stage after Quasi-Saint Ascension. Though not certain if I were to achieve Ascension, there was a high chance I'd be given a means to leave this world. I wasn't the only one thinking this way. According to the Mother of the Sky, players who came before me also aimed for similar goals. They all failed, though. The aftermath of failure led to the death of the top player, and the remaining players dispersed, each seeking new goals. That seed of conflict led to the present. It's the end. If even the top player couldn't clear it, the difficulty of the unachieved first place must be unimaginable. In the original game, Ascension was notorious for its murderous difficulty. Unlike other evolutionary stages, Ascension wasn't just about fulfilling conditions. The final battle. There was a last test from the being that held the secret of the world, and one had to pass that test to ascend. Among the Amorph players who met the Ascension conditions, I was the only successful one. If it's the same difficulty as the game, other players would have cleared it first. That I couldn't do it means there are changes I don't know about. But that doesn't mean I'm considering giving up midway. I've become an Amorph ranker, despite everyone saying it's impossible. If rankers higher than me have failed, then I just need to be even more prepared than them. But I raised myself slightly. Near me, the others tossed and turned. Number 26, Adha and Mother of the Sky, all lay sleeping together in the underground space that had turned into a shallow swamp. What will happen to this place if I leave? Setting aside the causes and processes of arriving in this world, I don't think this world will disappear or collapse just because I'm gone. It's too far-fetched to consider this place merely a virtual game world. It's more reasonable to see it as something new, resembling space survival. The experiences I've had all have substance. That fact troubles me. I'll miss them if we part ways. The longer I stay in this world, the deeper my emotions become. Mother of the Sky, who arrived here about 10 years earlier than me, even got married. My feelings towards them aren't exactly love, but there's certainly deep affection. A special feeling I haven't experienced since childhood. Plus, there's something worrying. Can number 26 and Adha manage without me? Honestly, there's a mix of hoping they'll be fine and hoping they won't. The former is a sort of pure wish for them to live out their given lifespan happily. As for the latter, it's a twisted desire. A messy feeling of sadness, longing, and loneliness knowing I'm not there. Sigh. It's still a long way to ascension, yet here I am having unnecessary thoughts already. Thanks to a damn dream, I'm wide awake feeling unsettled. I should do something productive. The nest still feels a bit cold, doesn't it? The underground space, which was nothing but soil and ice, transformed into a completely different environment thanks to my touch. This was due to two of the nest-related characteristics, swamp formation and master of the environment. Both were traits acquired while traversing the swamp before reaching level 2 transcendence. Both were useless traits in the game, but they're useful in this way. Swamp formation is a trait that creates a swamp in the nest. It's difficult to use alone, but when combined with traits that spread toxins or pathogens, it becomes somewhat useful. It could be used like when I spread space bacteria in the sewers of the T&C Special Trade Hub. Of course, it's difficult to demonstrate such a far-reaching impact as in the game, where there are many powerful healing techniques and equipment. At least swamp formation could be used to inflict debuffs. Master of the Environment, despite its grand name, wasn't very useful in the game. The effects overlap with the nest. This trait's effect is to change the environment on the nest as I wish. For a morph, who can manipulate the surrounding environment through the nest, it's utterly useless. A morph's nest has the effect of creating a beneficial environment for a morph's survival. It has beneficial effects such as increasing healing power or supplying fallen energy. On the other hand, Master of the Environment doesn't offer much benefit other than changing the temperature or surroundings. I never thought such a trait would be used in this way. It was kept in case it could be used as a transcendent material, but it unexpectedly came in handy in a different place. Thanks to Master of the Environment, the temperature in the underground space has decreased to a chilly level. One might worry that the ceiling and walls would melt, but this was resolved thanks to the slime, which was the nest's material. Nests spread within a radius of 100 meters block heat, preventing the ice from melting, and maintain a cool temperature inside. And on top of that, there's the swamp. If light were to reach this place, you'd be able to see steam rising from the swamp. Heat emission and swamp formation. I bet I'm the first one to use them together. Lying on the swamp created on top of the nest, slowly emitting heat, it truly became a mud-hot spring. Thanks to this, even Adha and Mother of the Sky, who felt cold could sleep comfortably. Thinking about it, even the psychic organs and the traits I didn't use are being rediscovered one by one. I thought there wasn't a player among the amorphs who played as diversely as me, but I need to reflect. There's still much for me to learn. With that thought, I adjusted the temperature I was emitting. As the heat from my body increased, the temperature of the swamp rose accordingly. Big one? What are you doing? Zzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzz, sorry. I woke you up. Through the flow of waves, or perhaps sensing my movement, number 26 sent a wave. I stopped emitting heat and reached out to stroke them. Zzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzz, don't worry about it. Go back to sleep. Big one, not sleepy. Then let me put you to sleep. Before I could refuse, it wrapped its large body around my head. Despite being half the size of my body, it turned into a perfect pillow without any trouble. This is another strange sensation. Until now, it had climbed onto my head, but I had never climbed onto it. Perhaps it's thanks to its body maintaining a suitably cool temperature. Big one, sleep well? Feeling a strange comfort, I closed my eyes. The noble capitals of Megacorp possess colonial planets scattered throughout the universe. Some planets are coveted hubs targeted by other factions, while others remain relatively unknown. The Eugen family also holds numerous planets. This is to procure materials necessary for genetic modification and creating Hulk mutants. Among such planets is one unnamed planet. Discovered by Akira Eugen himself during exploration, it's a location not recorded on the shared ship map of various factions. On this unnamed planet lies the nest of the Galagons, creatures of the universe. This frozen planet, chilled to the bone, was the sole supplier of Galagon genetics. However, as there is no such thing as a benevolent Galagon, one had to risk their life to enter this planet. It was so harsh that out of 100 who entered, only one might barely come out alive. Danger and value. Due to these two reasons, only a handful within the Eugen family knew the location of this planet. And Si-hyun Eugen was one of the few who knew the location. Because the source of the Galagon genetics embedded in her body was from here, she couldn't remain ignorant. But her knowledge of how dangerous this place wasn't solely because of the genetics. She was the only noble capital besides Akira Eugen himself to have set foot on this planet. This was because she had stolen Galagon eggs and captured a mutant blue Galagon on this planet. At that time, her faction suffered tremendous losses from pursuing Galagons. Although she's a clone now, she retained most of the original's memories. She knew well how terrifying enraged Galagons could be, so she hadn't even dreamt of returning here. Yet here she was now, setting foot once more on the planet where Galagons dwell. They've been here. Si-hyun, clad in her specialized reinforcement suit, White Maiden, rose slowly from the snow. Those who had been hiding around her heard her words and began to rise one by one. To prevent the power source from freezing instantly, her subordinates wore specially made reinforcement suits instead of regular ones. These suits, painted white like snow and thick like spacesuits, were equipment used for exploring volcanic or icy planets. Apart from that, communication devices and the weapons they held were all specially treated to prevent freezing. Like everyone else, Lila Chemblin, painted white with camouflage paint on the outside, approached Si-hyun. These Galagons seem quite diligent. Do they usually roam around so frequently? No, they don't. They mostly stay in their nests unless they're hunting. Earlier, all crew members had to hastily hide themselves due to the sudden appearance of a white Galagon on the planet. It's fortunate that the flagship didn't land. Otherwise, the exploration might have ended abruptly 3 days ago. The day Si-hyun's flagship arrived at the unnamed planet was 3 days ago. As Layla mentioned, instead of landing on the planet in her flagship, Si-hyun came through a transport ship. The decision was deliberate because a giant flagship would easily be detected by Galagons and could potentially require external support. However, considering the situation, that decision proved to be advantageous. That's strange. They don't usually roam around like this. While Galagons are the top predators on this planet, there are many other creatures with comparable strength. White Galagons have the duty to protect their nests from formidable adversaries. It was clearly unusual for them to venture outside the nest without hunting. Captain Niren, you said the artifact was buried in those mountains. Yes, but let me see the map for a moment. Si-hyun handed a small computer pad to Niran, a middle-aged cultist with yak horns. Once the former captain of the Imperial battleship Judicator of Damocles 08, he lost his ship and subordinates to the Devil with 3 heads. He came to this planet seeking revenge. Despite his cultist appearance, he adeptly marked a red dot on the map at a certain point in the mountains. It's buried here. It's quite a distance. Still, it'll be quicker to go this way. I don't recommend going in that direction. Another white Gagon might fly in. Both Niran and Layla had valid points. What about crossing over to the plain? It shouldn't take too long. It might be safer. That's difficult. There are dangerous monsters in the frozen plateau area. Layla pointed with her mechanical hand to an underground space where very powerful beasts reside. When they came here before, over 100 of their soldiers perished because of that creature. It wasn't fighting Galagons that caused their deaths, but rather an unexpected entity that resulted in the loss of many subordinates. If that creature is still alive, going in that direction would be risky. Can't be helped. Even if it takes a detour, I'll choose a safer route. Time wasn't on Si-hyun's side, but if she failed here, the trust of the people aboard her flagship would diminish, especially Min-suk. His trust is still needed. She glanced ahead after closing the map. Beyond the horizon was a black barrier. One of the peaks of those mountains held the artifact she was seeking. Chapter 168. Early in the morning, I ascended to the nest with the Mother of the Sky. Upon the ice lump placed at the entrance of the nest, a considerable weight of snow had accumulated overnight. After clearing the ice lump, I waited briefly in the icy corridor. The Mother of the Sky exited before me. Her superior vision allowed her to inspect the skies for any potential dangers. After observing for a few minutes, she signaled safety by wagging her tail. Clearing the snow and ice, the landscape appeared unchanged from yesterday. The only difference was that the biting snowstorm had ceased. Thanks to this, the Mother of the Sky seemed less cold than yesterday. Still, we can't linger. Glancing upwards, the sky was still filled with clouds. We had to hurry as we didn't know when snow and hail might pour again. Zzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzz, what was it that we needed to acquire? Winter Walker, the heart of ice horror. Winter Walker and ice horror. Both are creatures that inhabit icy planets or the polar regions of terrestrial planets. Adha knew about both creatures, resembling animals. He had seen Winter Walker himself, and ice horror was described by another Gagon. Both are fortunate to be on this planet, but besides the challenging condition of the cold environment, the specifications of both creatures were formidable. Among them, ice horror was particularly powerful. Zzzzzzzzzzzzz, it won't be easy. Yeah. Winter Walker might be manageable, but ice horror is the problem. She was right. Ice horror was one of the most dangerous predators in extreme cold. Though considered weaker than sea demons or black Galagons who were treated as raid bosses, ice horror was evaluated as a formidable foe due to its unique traits and superior stats. I had failed to defeat it in the game several times. But we are 4. A combination of a Galagon, a sea demon, and a morph, and a wolf griffin. With our powers combined, we should be able to overcome it. I have to hunt ice horror anyway. In my case, to become an ascendant, I needed to hunt 30 powerful creatures classified as Apex. Since ice horror was classified as an Apex, hunting it would be beneficial. Zzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzz, the problem is where to find it. Yeah. It doesn't roam on the surface. Ice horror doesn't search for prey but instead lays traps within its territory to hunt creatures that enter. In simple terms, it's like a spider living in extreme cold. Although they look very different. Anyway, it takes quite some time to find ice horror. It can dwell wherever there's prey but is a master of concealment. I'm quite good at hiding, but I can't compare to ice horror. Unless I approach its territory and traps very cautiously, it's impossible to confirm its presence. Zzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzz, if it's nearby, it's worth trying to lure it. If it's not around, I might have to wander far. Zzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzzz, ice horror takes time, so let's find Winter Walker first. Good idea. The Mother of the Sky also came to the same conclusion as me. Unlike ice horror, Winter Walker is a creature that actively hunts for prey. Adha said it's quite common, so we should be able to find it quickly. With our goal set, we ran across the snow-covered plain. As I crawled through the ice and snow piles, a golden wolf griffin raced beside me. Her mane and the sapphire pendant around her neck swayed wildly in the winter wind. Beneath her mane, muscles previously hidden under fur rippled. Despite her densely packed muscles not being for show, her movements were remarkably agile. She moved swiftly like the wind, but I was no pushover either. Her 6 combat arms-turned legs shattered the ice while dragging my body forward. From behind, her tail and bulky claws scattered the snow with each step. Compared to her graceful movement through the air, mine was noisy, but I matched her speed. Thanks to our rapid movement akin to a high-speed train, we approached the mountains quickly. The black mountains towering above the white horizon felt like structures erected by an unknown presence. The nature that created those mountains also seemed transcendent, so my feeling might be accurate. Amidst the breathtaking scenery, the scent of life was strong in the black mountains. Tall trees grew densely on the hardened soil. Perhaps because they grew in the extreme cold of the polar region, the trees all looked similar. Their trunks were long and slender, but as they ascended, their branches spread intricately. These branches intertwined with those of other trees, firmly anchoring them together. They seemed to have adapted to the frequent gales blowing in this environment. ZZZZZZZZZZZ, we need to be careful. If there's a forest, it means there's abundant prey. It's a good environment for winter walkers and galagons to roam and hunt. I slowed down and focused on my auxiliary organs while moving. The mother of the sky beside me also walked cautiously, keeping an eye on our surroundings. Her 4 auxiliary organs under her jaw twitched, brushing the ground as they flickered. Each time they did, events happening around us flowed into my brain through the organs. From the vibrations felt on the ground, there are probably 2 or 3 enemies. Although the intensity of the vibrations suggests a considerable distance, there was something peculiar. The vibrations seemed to intertwine and then separate repeatedly. What could this mean? A fight? I lifted my head from the ground. As long as movements of creatures presumed to be our targets are felt in the forest, we must move quietly from now on. Instead of using vocal organs, I summoned the mother of the sky using the monster's tentacles. There's a fight ahead, right? ZZZZZZZZZ, it's a bit far. We should check it out, right? Judging from the vibrations, both are terrestrial animals. If it were a galagon with its ability to fly, vibrations would have been sporadic. The mother of the sky and I cautiously moved along with the vibrations. As we approached the epicenter, we heard the sounds of trees breaking in the distance and the roar of beasts. The low sound, similar to a tiger's growl, was the sound of Winter Walker. It's fighting its prey. Hearing the sound, we stopped moving. If we approached further, the noise of my movement would be heard from the other side. I'll go up and check from above. The mother of the sky ascended the tree with a graceful movement. The trees here aren't sturdy enough for me to climb. I placed my auxiliary organs on the ground again and listened to the sounds and vibrations of the enemies. The enemies are small and agile. In size, they're roughly similar to the mother of the sky and their legs. Between 8 and 9. As far as I know, there are no creatures with 8 legs inhabiting ice planets. Maybe if they had hundreds of legs or no legs at all, but could it be a species I'm not aware of? At that moment, the mother of the sky, having finished scouting, leapt down from the tree. ZZZ, did you see? One side is a winter walker. The other one is. She hesitated for a moment before continuing. It seems to be a screamer. ZZZ, what? Why would a machine monster from Star Union like a screamer be here? If what she said is true, then this place would be Star Union territory. How many ships of Star Union have been swallowed? I haven't seen any route leading here. ZZZZZZZ, are you sure it's a screamer? To be honest, I'm not sure. A creature resembling a screamer is fighting with Winter Walker. It seems we need to see it for ourselves. She and I moved again. As we ran through the trees, we found Winter Walker and a mysterious monster. No, let me correct that. It was Winter Walker's corpse with its head severed, and a monster resembling a screamer. Hostile creature eliminated. The creature standing on the battlefield turned into a bloody mess. Even for someone like me who has played the game for a long time, it was the first time seeing such a monster. Is that a screamer? With a human head and torso attached to tubes and metal mechanical devices with a tail and 6 legs made of metal skeleton, it crawled on the ground. Though it shared similarities with a screamer, there were many differences. In short, it looked less mechanical than the original. While a typical screamer had tubes plugged into its mouth, generating sound through the mechanical devices, this creature had its mouth exposed, enabling it to produce sounds on its own without the rough breathing caused by the tubes. Except for its pale face reminiscent of a human, from the back of the head, it had a biomechanical appearance with tissues, tubes, and mechanical devices intertwined. Unlike a screamer where the distinction between machine and flesh was clear, this creature didn't have such separation in its body. The 8 legs extending from its body were also the same. Legs with a red muscle and tube entwined form on a metal skeleton. Beneath the slender and thin legs were 3 pointed alloy claws instead of feet. If the original screamer reminded one of a scorpion, the creature in front of me was a mixed breed spider, a hybrid spider created by mixing biological and mechanical components. It's not just intimidating in appearance. Winter Walker, with its head severed, fell victim to it. If it killed Winter Walker in a one-on-one battle, it means it possesses considerable skills. However, it didn't seem to have completely overwhelmed its opponent. 2 of its legs seemed heavily damaged, with their metal skeletons heavily distorted, making them appear immobile. And around its torso, where machinery and flesh were entangled, it bled dark red blood. Insufficient energy. Initiating self-supply. Muttering so, the creature opened its mouth wide and hastily began tearing into Winter Walker. No need to wait any longer. We can confirm the creature's identity firsthand. That's the way of the Apex, after all. It's all the same once you're eaten. The mother of the sky read my expression and leapt up into the trees. Simultaneously, I dashed towards the creature feasting on Winter Walker. Enemy detected. The creature, focused on its meal, didn't even look at me but anticipated my ambush. Without missing a beat, it leapt into the air from its feeding position. Like a speeding truck, I crashed into the corpse of Winter Walker. Hostile creature identified. Subdue. The spider-like monster, about to shout something from above, couldn't fulfill its intention. The mother of the sky burst through the trees and struck the creature's head with her forelegs. The creature's neck twisted grotesquely as it narrowly evaded the attack. TSK? Regretting the failed strike, the mother of the sky landed. Despite dodging all of our attacks, the spider monster landed on the ground and immediately distanced itself. Isn't it a screamer? If it were a screamer, it would have immediately attacked once it noticed us. However, the creature didn't do so. It seemed to be considering exploring, tilting its head to glare at both of us. Hostile creature 2 confirmed. Left creature. 89% match with special target type 100 right creature. The creature that looked at me widened its red eyes. It glared at me with eyes resembling blood and menacingly twitched its head. 75% match with set target. Main controller Pira 11 command delay. Autonomous judgment required. Subdue target. The creature muttered incomprehensible words and crouched down, assuming a combat stance. I, too, prepared to attack while keeping my eyes on its movements. I don't know if the creature is truly a screamer or a new type of weapon. However, if it is a screamer, the situation becomes grave. The possibility of a screamer roaming alone here is close to 0. There's a high chance that the creature has reinforcements somewhere I'm not aware of. Since there's a Gagon nest on this planet, they might have come as a small elite force, but I can't afford to be complacent. I need to deal with this quickly and assess the situation. As soon as I had that thought, the creature leapt at me like lightning. Chapter 169. The day they escaped from the T&C Special Trade Hub. After a morph went into evolution, number 26 and Adha each spent their own time. Number 26 was diligently practicing the conversational techniques a morph had taught it. Communicating through appendages called fingers was a very unfamiliar conversational method for it. Its peers communicated using the colors of their bodies. Among its kind, number 26 was the only one with appendages resembling fingers. While it had been using these appendages more and more lately, it was still inexperienced. But number 26 didn't give up. It was a much more complex and progressive creature than Amorph thought. Its mental horizons had expanded immeasurably since being trapped in the smelly courage of the past. While receiving more attention and affection from Amorph was nice, it wanted more than that. It started to dream of a future where it led its people alongside the Big One. To achieve that goal, it had to be able to communicate with the Big One. While number 26 worked hard for its dreams, what was Adha doing? Adha was lying on its side, trimming scales with her wings spread out. She quickly grasped the conversational techniques Amorph had taught her. Perhaps it was only natural for someone as smart and physically advantaged as her to do so. However, because she finished so quickly, she found herself with a lot of waiting time, so she was trimming scales to alleviate boredom. Little adult. Me. Curious. Little adult. 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 Adha kept sending thought waves. If number 26 had been a human, it might have been injured by Adha's continuous thought wave attacks, but as a sea demon, it suffered no major harm. Of course, it was unavoidable for it to feel annoyed by her whining while it was studying. What's wrong? Adult. Body. Growth. Fast. 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 Yeah. Sometimes the Big One grows this fast. Wonder? Me. Adult. Growth. Envy? Saying that, Adha looked down at her own torso. Instead of the white scales she wished for, beautiful green scales adorned her body. With no blemishes, the smooth and gleaming green scales resembled emerald jewels. Perhaps if intelligent beings saw Adha's scales, they would be amazed at their beauty. However, to number 26, body color was only a means of communication and held no significance. Me. Want. Scales. White. Is it good to be white? Good. White. Strength. Coolness. Charm. Overflow. Adha stood up, spreading her wings and straightening her waist. At the same time, she curled her tail upward, forming a snail shell shape. This posture was considered a love-making posture among the Galagons, but no one here knew that fact. White. Growth. Advantage. One. More. Exist. What's wrong? Me. Adult. No. Possible. While Adha spoke excitedly, number 26 felt a strange sensation upon hearing her words. It wondered if this little one would give up even if it told her it was impossible. You have to lay eggs after you grow big. Understand? Me. Growth. Need. White. Coolness. Adult. Me. Fascinated. Despite saying she understood, she didn't seem to at all. As number 26 watched Adha pondering what the most captivating posture might be, a question suddenly arose in its mind. Did Adha really know how babies were made? Little one. How do you make babies? Upon hearing this, Adha lifted her head high. It seemed like she was showing off that she knew while the adult didn't. Although number 26 didn't particularly like her attitude, number 26 held its tongue. The Big One was quite different from its kind in her eyes. If the Big One's method of making babies was different from what number 26 thought, it could pose problems when leading its kind in the future. I. Speak. Little adult. Listen. Yeah. Male. Above. Female. Below. Embrace. Egg. Born. Huh. Female. Egg. Laid. However, Adha's explanation was very different from what number 26 had in mind. No, to be precise, it was absurd. Hugging makes babies. Correct. Then why don't I have one if I've been sleeping next to the Big One? I've slept with the Big One too. Adha had also slept with the Big One, but she didn't feel the need to point out that fact. Anyway, perhaps number 26's comment was sharp enough as Adha couldn't properly answer. Then is there something else? Little adult. Guess. Me. Agree. Impossible? Little ones don't know either. In the end, Adha didn't provide an answer. Number 26 vaguely knew that the Big One was an exceptional being. So she thought it wouldn't be easy to make a baby, and it seemed her speculation was correct. But just when she thought it was over, Adha called out to number 26 again. Little adult. Baby. Know how to make? Me. I don't really know. Little adult. Don't know. Don't know. Don't know. Adha fluttered her wings. Although the two species had completely different ways of communication, having spent a long time together, they could roughly understand each other's gestures. That was a gesture the little one made when teasing someone. Number 26 felt an urge to smack her in that moment but restrained itself. In such situations, the one who strikes first loses. So it decided to show off instead of resorting to violence. I actually know very well. Really? Really? I know it very well. Explain. Please. Number 26 squeezed its brain hidden inside her body and recalled the baby-making process it had seen among its kin before. First, you inflate the body to make it big? Body. Big. Actually, number 26 didn't know much about making babies either. Despite being the leader of the group, it had never made babies with anyone. It only considered itself responsible for protecting its family and never thought about continuing any productive activities. Yeah. And then embrace and intertwine with each other. Embrace. Intertwine? Adha seemed suspicious of whether there was any difference in what she said. She was a lot more perceptive than number 26, seeing through whatever it was saying. As number 26 thought there was something more to say, something came to its mind. Use your thin tentacles to touch your friend's tentacles? Tentacles. Yeah. Touch with your tentacles? In reality, it had used its thin tentacles to soothe the big one when he was on the verge of going crazy. At that moment, it had experienced a mysterious connection to the big one's heart. A sublime yet strangely unsettling sensation. It felt like doing something forbidden. Number 26 could never forget it. Listening to its words with a nonchalant attitude, Adha nodded her head, deeming it reasonable. Tentacles. Affection. Display. Is that so? Kin. Night. Flight. Midair. Tentacles. Embrace. Adha had seen kin secretly engaging in affectionate acts with their tentacles. And it seemed very pleasurable. TL/N kin is when Adha refers to both number 26 and a morph. However, that wasn't the answer Adha wanted. What she wanted was not the process but the result. No matter how pleasurable the act, it was useless without eggs. Tentacles. Embrace. Kin. Eggs. Failure. Is that so? Tentacles. Length. Many. Coolness. Acknowledgement. Eggs. Relationship. Irrelevant. As Adha said, having long and many tentacles was certainly attractive, but it was a separate issue from making babies. In the end, the conversation came back to square one. Despite number 26 and Adha vigorously debating and racking their brains, they ultimately found no answers. I need a friend who knows how to make babies. Agreed. The conclusion reached after the profound debate between the sea demon and the Gagon was simple. That is, obtaining necessary information from a third party. It was the result of applying the hunting laws learned so far with a morph. When dealing with an unknown enemy, the first step is to gather information. A morph, who had become an unknown entity regarding baby making in the end. As both a big one and an adult, he slept while evolving, knowing nothing. Chapter 170. Blood flowed from the corpse, staining the snow-covered ground. Amidst the whispering of leaves, a spider-like monster sprinted forward. The target of the creature's pursuit was me, specifically my neck area. Somehow, it pinpointed my weakness in an instant. 6 corroding tentacles sprang forth from my back. Originally sturdy, these tentacles had become even stronger thanks to the synthetic scales covering them, spreading wide to grasp the creature in an attempt to restrain it. The creature was roughly 4 meters in size, slightly smaller than the mother of the sky. While I wasn't sure of its strength, it wasn't enough to overcome the disadvantage posed by its size. The collision between the creature's 6 tentacles and its 8 legs was accompanied by a loud clatter of metal echoing through the forest. The creature, considerably smaller than my corroding tentacles, twisted its legs to evade their attacks. Stained red by the black metal skeleton, it swiftly crawled onto my tentacles. In an instant, the spider-like monster had reached my back. Its forelegs aimed for the tentacles of the creature on my neck. Watch out! I timed my movements carefully, shaking my body vigorously. The 3 mechanical claws at the end of its metal legs sliced through the air. As the creature's posture faltered, I initiated a counterattack. I twisted my tail upward, swinging the pincers at its end forcefully. The creature hastily raised its 2 damaged forelegs to defend itself. Unfortunately, my pincers were strongest at the head segment, along with my carapace. A heavy cracking sound, akin to being struck by a colossal hammer, resonated as the creature's body floated in the air. Then, the Mother of the Sky leapt onto my combat arm. With all her might, she struck the creature's right legs with her 2 forelegs. Arg! Despite being struck by the pincers while airborne, the spider-like monster managed to twist its body somehow. Unfortunately, her attack only managed to crush one of its legs. As they crossed paths and landed in separate areas, unlike the graceful landing of the Mother of the Sky, the spider-like monster sank halfway into the ground, perhaps due to its damaged legs. Tougher than expected? Zzz, seems like it. Her blow was heavy enough to punch holes through a battleship. Yet, the creature's legs didn't break, let alone bend. I guess it's not going to work. Originally, I had intended to confirm its identity by consuming its flesh, but it proved to be a better fighter than anticipated. Time was not on our side. It wasn't wise to prolong this any further. I activated my reserved insight ability. Name, S422. Species, mass-produced by. Status, contains unidentifiable information. Equipment, contains unidentifiable information. What? The information revealed by insight was unconventional. I tried using it again to see if it would change significantly, but it remained largely the same. Why isn't it a player? This was the first time since Muriel that unidentifiable information had appeared. Leg damage status, critical. Irreparable. Main controller Pura 11 unresponsive. Proceed with combat. While I was using insight without moving, the creature, having adjusted its stance, launched another attack. S422 darted forward, its 7 legs moving swiftly. I twisted my body and swung my tail forward. The piled-up snow turned into a blizzard as it scattered. The creature lowered its body to evade my attack while simultaneously twisting its 2 forelegs backward to rake underneath my tail. As scales and blunt claws were torn off, a sharp pain surged through me. The corroding tentacles rushed to defend their master from the attack, but the creature leapt upward, anticipating it, dodging the assault. My tentacles remained stuck to the ground while the creature, airborne, faced the incoming attack from the Mother of the Sky. Their collision, between her most potent weapon, the beak, and the creature's forelegs, produced a sound akin to a fierce struggle rather than mere metal clashing against flesh. Left leg number 2 damaged. Ugh! The creature's metal legs were sliced as if by a blade. However, the Mother of the Sky wasn't unscathed either, as the creature's claw had cut into her side. I crawled forward, using my combat arm to shield her while opening my mouth wide towards the creature. The acidic fungal spores located near my throat were activated, and soon, green acidic spores were ejected from my mouth. Acid substance detected. Still airborne, the creature twisted its body forcibly to avoid the incoming liquid. However, this time, the creature couldn't completely dodge. Greedy fungal spores that touched its body began to gnaw at the metal skeleton. External skeleton damage 88%. The creature, upon landing, attempted to glance at its legs, but it was too late. Its legs were already irreversibly damaged. Unable to stand any longer, the creature collapsed onto the snowy ground. It's over. The creature's main weapon had been its legs all along. It seemed like it had no other weapons. No, it might still have something left. Since I couldn't see its equipment, it might have hidden weapons. I cautiously approached the creature. Main controller Pura 11 communication failure confirmed. Loss recorded, database registration complete. The creature, with its head pressed against the ground, muttered something incessantly. Incineration protocol activated. 2019. Incineration protocol. 18, 17, 16. Could it be? With a foreboding feeling, I quickly grabbed the Mother of the Sky. Crawling frantically, we dashed out of the courtyard. Why suddenly? What's happening? As I suddenly embraced her and ran, she shot me a bewildered look, mixed with a hint of panic. She seemed unaware of why I was acting this way, but there wasn't time to explain everything. Instead of explaining, I continued to knock down trees and kept crawling forward. After about 10 seconds, I felt a tremendous amount of energy and heat emanating from behind me. Along with it came an overwhelming roar that made my auxiliary organs tremble. The Mother of the Sky, glancing back at me, widened her eyes. What in the world? Run faster. ZZZ, I know. I could already feel an abnormal amount of heat around my back and tail. Just by looking at it, one could tell that the amount of energy released from the creature's body surpassed dozens of plasma launchers. I might not die, but the Mother of the Sky clinging to my combat arm might. I, being robust, might only lose my carapace, arms, and legs, but she would be incinerated without a trace. Thanks to the 3 combat arms, blunt claws, and corroding tentacles, I was able to barely escape the explosion range in a frenzy. As we watched the forest ablaze, the Mother of the Sky murmured, "Did such a creature exist in the game? ZZZZZZZZZZZZ, there wasn't in my memory." Really? In games, there were beings that used self-destruct as a weapon. The standard play in Megacorp involved planting bombs in expendable henchmen's bodies and initiating a self-destruct charge, and there were also creatures in the wild that exploded to inflict damage. However, there had never been a creature capable of causing such a powerful explosion. Could it be the remnants of the space hound I encountered before? Suddenly, the memory of the Hulk mutant, who had implanted a bomb in one of its 2 hearts, causing me trouble, came to mind. At the time, I was weak, but the opponent, being a Hulk mutant, was remarkably intelligent, leaving a lasting impression. I quickly shook my head. No, the likelihood of it being him is low. It's too sudden for it to appear in a place like this. Rather, it might be more reasonable to associate it with the new Screamer encountered on the Star Union warship before arriving here. It seemed to have a strong connection with it. It's excessively overpowered for a Screamer. Moreover, when I checked with Insight earlier, I saw it. The word mass-produced was displayed in the creature's species name. There were 2 things I could infer from this word. First, that the creature was created by someone. And it's not just one creature. There might be dozens, hundreds, or even more monsters resembling the Screamer somewhere on this planet. Let's worry about that later. Right now, we need to get out of here. If such a massive fire erupts in this snowy and icy planet, the Galagons are sure to come flying. Or perhaps the creature's companions. Hunting is off the table for today. We can never come back to this area near the forest. The Galagons will continue to patrol the area. We must try approaching the mountains from another direction, once we're confident it's safe. As we escaped the burning forest, we faced a new problem. Crossing the snowfield is risky. A black flame blooms on a world filled with white. Everyone would surely take notice of this, but crossing the ice plain without any cover would be too risky. If my scales were white, it wouldn't be a problem, but since they are closer to blackish purple, they would be easily visible even from a great distance in current conditions where the snowstorm isn't blowing. However, using organic evolution to transform into an intelligent weakling and reducing my size isn't a favorable option. We might end up fighting unknown monsters and Galagons. If that happens, one of the special states that can be transformed through organic evolution, King of Monsters, will be the trump card, so we should save it. We need to go underground. Underneath the ice, there's a vast underground space. The nest I made isn't completely enclosed by walls, it's an open space in both directions. I'm not sure if the underground space below here is connected to the nest, but it would be safer than walking on the snow. ZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZZ We're going to dig through the floor. Keep an eye out for anyone coming. Got it. Leaving the surveillance to the Mother of the Sky, I repeated what I did yesterday. I heated my body with thermal discharge and broke the ice with my combat arms and tail. We should hurry. ZZZ, what? Dozens of Galagons are coming this way. Upon receiving the unwelcome news from above, I increased my speed. Utilizing my corrosion tentacles and split jaws, I hastily dug through the ice. Thanks to my last effort, I managed to complete the tunnel connecting to the underground space. I hurriedly crawled out and sent the mother of the sky down first. Now, the Galagons were close enough to be visible even to my eyes. Unfortunately, they were focused on the burning forest. They picked up the corpses of the burned creatures and flew away somewhere, while the enemies were preoccupied elsewhere. I quickly concealed the entrance of the newly made tunnel. With all the work done, I crawled down into the ice cave. Luckily, I didn't sense anyone catching on. No one's onto us. ZZZZZZZZ, I don't know. Arriving in the underground space, I quickly left with the mother of the sky. Darn. I didn't expect to be in such a difficult situation because of some mass-produced monster. I don't know who it is, but the one who has irritated me to this extent is truly rare. It's as annoying as being interfered with by the amorph hunters back in the day. Let's find out who. I've never forgiven those who interfered with my evolution until now. In the game, I retaliated against the amorph hunters with every means available to me. The one who created the ugly spider-like creature. They will follow the same path as the amorph hunters. A huge underground complex spanning hundreds of meters. Enjoying the cozy darkness while minding his own business, it sensed a vibration. It was clear that some fool dared to act up on his territory. Such incidents have been frequent lately. In this vicinity, unfamiliar small creatures often swarmed towards him, and the colorful snakes flying in the sky suddenly roamed around his territory. Having lived countless long years, it didn't like to move his body much due to his lazy nature. He only roughly crushed or swallowed the small creatures attacking him while leaving the flying snakes alone. However, today's vibration was different from previous occasions. Strong vibrations shook its nest. When those arrogant creatures threatened his home, it thought, if these fools continue to trample his territory like this, wouldn't even the flying snakes in the sky start to ridicule him? It meant that it had become weak enough to not even protect his own home. It may be lazy, but not stupid. In this harsh world, the only future left for the weak is death. So, it decided to show the invaders that the king of this underground was still alive and well. Determined to move for once, it tracked the scent of the enemies with his elongated antennae. Despite being old, the tips of his sharp antennae still caught the faint scent of two lines. After the significant vibration, invaders entered its territory. The scent of the two beasts that had entered its territory reached his antennae. Having found his prey, all that remained was to seek retribution. It, who filled the underground complex hundreds of meters, stretched his coiled body. It was time for the hunt after a long time. Chapter 171. The world spread out beneath the cold ice was a maze. The underground space I had chosen as my nest was extensively carved out in both directions, but this place surpassed it. It seemed like a massive mining drill had roamed around, piercing passageways here and there. The mother of the sky and I constructed the ice maze underground. Thanks to my auxiliary apparatus, I could navigate through the darkness without losing my way. Even so, the mother of the sky moved effortlessly without a single speck of light in this place. ZZZZZZZZZZZZ, which way should we go? It seems like the right path might be faster. ZZZ, really? Her pumpkin-colored irises glimmered subtly like lanterns. Among the mythical creatures capable of transformation, some stored light in their bodies to emit it as needed. Thanks to this ability, a griffin like her could utilize its exceptional vision actively regardless of day or night. Like adventurers exploring unknown realms relying on a single torch, we continued towards where our nest lay. Something feels off. It had been over 10 minutes since we entered, yet we hadn't encountered any creatures. It was surprising considering that even in such underground spaces, there should be inhabitants. Furthermore, as we ventured deeper, it became evident that this vast space wasn't naturally formed. The mother of the sky shared my thoughts. I think we might have entered the wrong place. She pointed to a section of the wall with her forepaw. Traces, each 3 meters long, were sporadically scattered. All of them seemed to have been there for quite some time, with ice and dirt embedded in them. But I understood what these traces meant. What this place was. This was a space created by a being larger than any creature I had ever encountered. Comparatively inferior to the black Gagon but possessing formidable power. ZZZZZZZZZZ, it's the domain of the ice horror. And it's at least an adult? As the ice horror ages, it undergoes molting, growing significantly larger and its carapace harder with each molt. In the game, due to balance reasons, there's a limit called adulthood to prevent endless growth. But this was reality. If it continued to grow even after reaching adulthood, one could hardly imagine its size. Those marks look like claw prints. If the claws were of a size similar to those marks, the creature's size would be at least 150 meters. It would be beyond measure, truly. Do you sense anything around? ZZ, no. It was natural, but I had checked with the auxiliary organ before descending. I only felt the chilly air, there was no unusual movement detected. I inspected the walls with the auxiliary apparatus, but it was the same as before. However, if this was the ice horror's domain, we couldn't afford to let our guard down. Due to its immense size, it won't hunt far from its territory. It designates a certain area as its hunting ground and targets prey that enters it. It's been several tens of minutes since we entered. It probably knows about our intrusion. Even from dozens of kilometers away, it can detect scent or vibrations. If there's no nest, it's considerably more adept than me, capable of detecting enemies within a radius of a few kilometers. By now, it's probably diligently coming to capture us. Moreover, the ice horror, despite its massive size, can minimize its movement sound. This is because it reduces the sound generated by the movement of fur on its legs and body as much as possible. If you hear its sound, it's likely already too late. Even if we were to detect its pursuit in advance and flee, this is its home ground. Escape would only buy us time. Rather than fleeing, we need to prepare for how to fight it. Let's consider our options. First, let's look at the advantages the enemy possesses. I don't know much about it. While I'm well acquainted with the ice horror, I can't be certain how much stronger the creature here is. In the game, the ice horror size doesn't exceed 100 meters, but the one here is over 150 meters. Even if my body size is currently 28 meters, it would increase if I were to use the symbol of hunt, but compared to the enemy, it's still significantly smaller. Unlike the sea demon or black Gagon, which have extraordinary abilities to manipulate enemies, the ice horror doesn't possess any special abilities. Instead, it relies on superior physical abilities to overpower its opponents. Undoubtedly, it must be superior to me in strength and defense. Moreover, its detection abilities surpass mine. The ice horror can detect various factors such as vibrations, sounds, and smells with the antennae on its head. I'll quickly be discovered no matter where I hide, so the strategy of initiating combat by surprise as usual won't work here. An opponent with detection abilities superior even to mine. And the uncertainty of how powerful the ice horror is. These are the creature's advantages. On the other hand, I have the same advantages. The ice horror also lacks information about me. It probably regards us as nothing more than winter walkers who accidentally fell into the underground. The creature doesn't know what I'm capable of. If it's a creature that deviates from the norm, then I'm the same. Even if my combat ability is inferior to the creature's, I have characteristics that can compensate for it. Furthermore, while I don't know about the creature, I do know about the ice horror. Its habits, strengths, weaknesses, every piece of information is in my head. Various traits and experiences from hunting numerous ice horrors. These are my weapons. Having organized my thoughts, I summon the Mother of the Sky. ZZZZZZZZZ, let's fight here. Would it be okay with just the two of us? I shook my head at the Mother of the Sky's question. Of course not. Facing the creature directly would be overwhelming for me alone. If the creature is indeed over 150 meters in size, it will be difficult to break its carapace. Even the thinnest carapace would be several meters thick. Unless it has a body reinforced by symbol of hunt or destructive traits like Divine Spectre, it won't cause any harm at all. So here, I need help from others, not just me, number 26 and Adha, the Mother of the Sky, everyone's assistance is needed. The footsteps echoed, punctuating the silence. My time to stall. Fetch them from the nest. You're baiting them? ZZZ, yes. Well, it's true the creature usually goes for big prey, but it's not always the case. I might be the one attacked first. A valid point. The ice horror generally prefers large prey, but it's not without exceptions. Being a cunning species, it sometimes behaves unusually. For instance, It might first subdue a seemingly weaker opponent before targeting larger prey. If the creature acts like this here, the Mother of the Sky will be in significant danger. ZZZZZZZZZ Taoist Fof BS. Don't worry. While the creature may be cunning, we're not fools either. Hey, it's your turn. The thick carapace and the circular mucous membranes located where it meets the waist tore apart with a sticky sound. Small goblins from the nest poured out. It was the activation of the infection fusion trait, Tooth Fairy Nest. Compared to my size, now at 28 meters, the murder fleas, still small, lined up in front of me. The Mother of the Sky, who understood my intentions, nodded. I see. Go right when you reach the fork. You didn't need to explain. The griffin chuckled and met my eyes. Though she didn't say anything, it was easy to guess what she was thinking. As I nodded slightly, she dashed forward. Having sent her off, I glanced at the tooth fairies. There are things you need to do. The beings imbued with my will began to find their respective tasks and move. Seeing them scatter, I too relocated. The battleground suitable for fighting the creature is nearby. The thing, crawling across the ice with countless legs, halted in its tracks. There was a change in the vibrations coming from afar. The large and small vibrations that had been moving together suddenly split and moved in different directions. It knew what this meant. Among packs of prey, there are cases where the adults become bait to protect the weaker offspring. This case might be similar. So the answer was clear. It aimed for the small vibrations. Since the offspring are slow and weak, it's much more effective to consume them first and then go for the stronger adults later. It attempted to follow the usual path of chasing the small vibrations, but its antennae detected a new vibration. From the large vibration, a multitude of tiny vibrations was emanating. Such an opponent had never been encountered before, so it was slightly taken aback. Was this time the small vibrations acting as bait? Or had it detected something incorrectly? It pressed its long, dual antennae against the ground. Amidst the cool sensation of soil and ice, mixed with faint tremors and sounds, the vibrations traveled up the antennae. The creature judged it as the sound of footsteps produced by small creatures. That meant there were offspring around the large vibrations. The reason for the change in the vibrations felt earlier was probably because there were creatures carrying offspring. It was rare, but such creatures did exist, so the creature understood. SSSSSSSSSSSSSSSS. Retrieving its antennae, the creature set off again. The destination was where numerous vibrations converged. The creature, with hundreds of legs, diligently maneuvered through the icy maze, sliding as it went. Despite its immense size, it moved very quietly. If any other creature had entered, they might have mistaken the wind for a hole opening somewhere in the underground space. In this brief time of movement, the creature's senses caught prey. Before it, there were 10 offspring. Probably some of the creature's offspring had fallen behind in their escape. Even though they were offspring, they were quite aggressive creatures. The fallen ones rushed towards the creature appearing in the passage. The creature widened its mouth, extending its 4 jaws wide open and drove its head down where the offspring were. The 4 jaws exposed the frozen ground like a digger. The offspring, mixed with soil, rocks, and ice, headed straight for the creature's insides. Given the vast difference in size between the quantum beings, this was a feasible method as there was an immense gap. Having quickly dispatched 10 offspring, the creature continued forward. Its antennae spoke to it. Once it passed through the upcoming passage, it would reach the gathering place. There, the large vibrations and the offspring were converging. Thinking of the imminent feast, saliva dripped from its jaws. Eager to quickly fill its insides with fresh meat, the creature raced through the ice cavern. In a flash, the creature passed through the passage and extended its head into the wide chamber. The distance to the large vibration was close enough for the creature to discern with its antennae. Caught you. A small sound carried through the air. The creature didn't know what the sound meant. But the immense energy emanating from the entity that made the sound, it knew well. It knew what consequences that bundle of energy would bring. The creature attempted to retreat behind the passage quickly, but due to its physique, it wasn't easy. As its body got stuck in the passage, the creature's worst fear became a reality. An enormous amount of energy from within the chamber engulfed the creature's carapace. Not only the carapace but its insides too were engulfed in flames. As the energy flames subsided, rocks and ice collapsed on the creature. It's going according to plan. In the chamber where I was, there were several ice passages, but deliberately, I left 10 tooth fairies in that passage. Since the ice horror, which targets offspring or weaker ones first, would undoubtedly crush the tooth fairies, I was sure of it. And as soon as I felt the tooth fairies' deaths, I was prepared to unleash a psychic blast. The reason for using psychic breath instead of God's club was simple. It was because using God's club would likely cause the entire ice plateau above to collapse. If that happened, not just me but the others would be crushed immediately. The gallant Golgons flying around outside would quickly realize that something was beneath them. For this reason, after God's club, the next most powerful long-range attack, Psychic Breath, was used. Moreover, the enemy's size made it easier to hit. I estimated the creature's length to be 150 meters, but it seemed even larger just from its head. Because its body was so large, despite detecting my attack early, the creature couldn't evade in the passage. First, I took the initiative. Although the passage the creature had passed through completely collapsed, the ice horror wasn't weak enough to die from such an attack. Perhaps the part of its carapace directly hit by Psychic Breath was damaged. It will soon emerge and attack me. But before that backslash. To face a monster, one must first become a monster. I activated the backslash symbol of Hunt backslash. Chapter 172. The primary characteristic I acquired first in this world is being a perfect organism. As implied by the name, it's the ability to transform my physical capabilities and types into states suitable for survival. Moreover, a complete organic entity has a special effect, the symbol of Hunt mode. When activated, my body optimizes for combat, evolving into the ultimate biological weapon. Although it has a cooldown of 24 hours for a duration of 20 minutes, it exhibits exceptional effects that overshadow such drawbacks. Just like now. Gurgle. Though my eyes are gone, my senses are sharper than ever. Every detail of the surroundings, be it this corridor buried in ice horror or the common ground I stand on, feels vividly alive as if seen directly through my eyes. Thanks to this, I'm fully aware of the changes happening within my body. Bones, muscles, scales, exoskeletons, everything, optimizing my body to hunt stronger foes and acquire more prey. As the cranial exoskeleton grows rapidly, the burden on my body shifts slightly forward. The 6 horns, useful in battles against formidable enemies, have grown into even more menacing forms. The elongated, slender skull, reminiscent of theropod dinosaurs, has undergone even more extreme changes since the application of the organic evolution trait. The lower jaw, splitting into 2 branches, has developed an impression resembling a metal protective gear beneath the jaw. Along with the changes to the jaw, bone exoskeletons have been attached to the auxiliary organs beneath it, transforming into ivory-like structures similar to an elephant's tusks. Despite their considerable size and weight, the developed jaw allows them to move without much difficulty. The auxiliary organs retain their original functions. Changes around the head aren't limited to just the auxiliary organs. The most significant change is the relocation of the 5 facial apertures previously attached to the back to the head. Similar to ancient warriors adorning their bodies with their enemies' skulls, the 5 pallid faces are attached to the rear exoskeleton like trophies. As the head becomes heavier, the neck has also evolved to support it. The tentacles of the monster, now enlarged, are covered with hair-like protrusions on the enlarged neck. In its normal state, the neck wasn't prominently displayed due to the tentacles and rear exoskeleton, resembling more of a spike. But now, it's thick and elongated like that of a crocodile or a Komodo dragon. Moreover, the section from the neck to the back, akin to the nutshell hump in humans, is rugged. Subsequently, bone blade arms protrude from the exoskeletal orifices, serving as symbols of the manifestation of hunting. The arms at the ends of the biological size are the sharpest and most lethal weapons I possess. They can easily cut through even tough materials like battleship hulls or superior reinforced armor. Other parts have also transformed into forms useful for combat. The blunt claws previously on the lower body and tail have undergone significant changes. They now resemble joints with sharp claws at the ends, akin to spider legs. While there have been changes such as the growth of new parts, the weight has actually become lighter than before. Previously, when I used the manifestation of hunting, I felt bulkier and heavier, but now, it's a sensation of being thin yet light. However, being lighter doesn't mean a decrease in durability or strength. Rather, Due to densely interwoven scales, the defense has likely increased compared to before. Moreover, it seems more flexible than before. I flexed and bent my combat arms, which have grown more than twice their original length before I started using the manifestation of hunting. The scales moved smoothly like waves following the movements of muscles and bones. Apart from becoming lighter and more flexible overall, the overall length has increased. Based on the detection by auxiliary organs, the length up to the tail is roughly between 35 meters to 40 meters. So, compared to the previous 28 meters, the body has extended by nearly 10 meters. Even so, compared to over there, it's still small. The opponent is a colossal creature that easily surpasses 100 meters, despite being only a third of its size. Size isn't everything. After completing my inspection, I raised my head, tapping 4 bone blades, or rather, the transformed auxiliary organs. As soon as I lifted my head, the piles of ice and rocks in the passage began to shake as if timing their movement with mine. The trembling of the debris intensified as if representing the emotions of the entity beneath. Moments later, as if erupting in an explosion, the rocks and ice fragments scattered, revealing the ice horror. To simplify the appearance of the ice horror, it looked like a fusion of the monster from the classic monster movie series The Bee of B and the body of a centipede. PR/N okay, so even I don't understand the name of the movie. If you guys know, please tell me while I will research on my own. I need a raise, damn. Its head boasted 4 incredibly sturdy jaws capable of tearing apart even battleships, filled with spikes and teeth for grasping and suction. At the rear of the jaw were degenerated eyes and 2 long, thin antennae. The antennae, reminiscent of a chain whip, are the detection organs the creature possesses. Unlike me, whose auxiliary organs are vulnerable, the antennae of the creature are quite robust, as evident from their appearance. Below the head, it had segments similar to a centipede, with sharp claws on each segment, legs, and a white carapace attached. The difference from a centipede lies in the extreme hardness of the carapace. It can ignore most attacks even without special defensive abilities. Indeed, even when hit head-on by my psychic breath, the creature's carapace only showed slight scratches. SSSSSS. Seemingly infuriated by the unexpected ambush, the creature hissed roughly. Its antennae on the head swayed like threatening cobras. The space was so vast that even with 2 colossal monsters inside, there was plenty of room to spare. I deliberately chose this place to fight the creature. While the ice horror's size might suggest an advantage in confined spaces, the reality is different. The creature effortlessly burrowed through the ground and ice, a disadvantage for me in anything but an open space. SSSSS. As the creature emitted its threatening sounds, it turned its head toward me. Its 4 jaws spread wide, and from within, a stream of transparent venom was shot towards me. By highly concentrating the nerve toxin I often used against biological foes and mixing it with hallucinogens, it became the ice horror's venom. In simple terms, it's a toxin that paralyzes or induces hallucinations in its victims. But I didn't evade. Instead, I rushed towards the creature, which stood still, shooting venom. Venom is useless against me. Thanks to the complete immunity trait I received as a special reward, I am completely immune to toxins and diseases. No matter how potent the venom the creature shoots, it won't affect me. TL/N Well, this is irritating. The author does not even give chapter hints or mentions of how and when he gets the trait. Or he directly mentions after 100 chapters. PR/N Your problem. I leapt over the ice on the ground while being hit by the venom. SSSSSS. The fact that its venom had no effect seemed to confuse the creature. That's to be expected. Around here, there are only a few species, including the black Gagon, that are immune to the creature's venom. While the creature hesitated, I charged with speed and momentum, thrusting my horns into its head. The frozen underground chamber shook violently, and the creature staggered backward. Grrrrrrrr. Until now, no enemy had survived being impaled by my horns, but this time was an exception. The ice horror's defense was truly formidable. Despite my strike, only scratches from the horns remained on its carapace. SSSSSS. The creature, pushed back, emitted a sinister sound as it launched its counterattack. Its body, several times longer than mine, writhed like a snake, attempting to ensnare me. I grabbed the creature's body with my 6 combat arms. In that state, I swung my tail forcefully. The pincer at the end of my tail turned into a heavy mace, striking the carapace around its abdomen. SSSSS. The agonizing screams of the ice horror mixed with its roar echoing through the underground chamber. Looking at the area hit by my tail, it was riddled with cracks like a spider web. It must have hurt given the force of the impact. SSSSSSS. Enraged, the creature, jaws wide open, charged at me. Its plan was likely to swallow me whole. The swirling tentacles resembling whirlpools around my back peeled away, and the corroded tentacles hidden within all sprang out. The tentacles, spread wide, firmly grasped the creature's jaws. And thus, the struggle began. GRRRRRRR. SSSSS. It was a showdown between two colossal creatures spanning tens to hundreds of meters. As a result, the ice wall surrounding the underground space shook violently. Icicles hanging from the ceiling fell, and the ground I stood on cracked and split deeply. Such immense strength. Despite using the manifestation of hunting, the creature's strength was truly immense. While my 6 corroded tentacles firmly held its jaws, they couldn't last long. The creature began to press me down with its weight. But I anticipated this much. I slightly eased the force on the corroded tentacles. As the creature exerted pressure on me, its body suddenly lurched towards me. At the moment the creature's gaping mouth aimed to swallow me whole. One of my bone blade arms from my back flew like lightning and pierced into the creature's mouth. SSSSS. Startled by the sudden pain, the ice horror recoiled. It shook violently, and with a creature of its size causing havoc, not only the chamber but the entire underground space trembled as if in an earthquake. SSSSSSS. Then, the creature closed its jaws, gripping me, and violently shook its head, hurling me away. My body flew through the air and slammed hard against the wall. Ugh! Pain nullification activated. Although it had been a while since the pain nullification trait was activated, there was no time to be distracted by the pain. Quickly, I withdrew my body from where it was embedded in the wall and dodged to the side. As I evaded, the creature's head slammed into the wall beside me. With a paper-thin margin of escape, I slashed at the carapace around its abdomen with the 4 bone blade arms under its jaw. These bone blades were made of the same material as the blades on my back. In other words, they were extremely hard and sharp. With the sound of cracking walnut shells, 4 wounds appeared on the creature's carapace. Clearly annoyed by my evasion and counterattack, the creature twisted its body to ram into me. I hastily raised my combat arms to block, but the result wasn't favorable. 2 of my arms that collided with the creature's carapace were completely shattered, and my body was slammed against the wall again. Ugh! With no cunning maneuvers, just simple movements, but faster and stronger than me, it wasn't easy to deal with. The one whose arm I had broken rushed at me again, pulling its head from the wall. Anticipating this, I opened my mouth towards its eyes. The acid gland located near my esophagus shot out its vile acidic liquid. The creature, hit by the green liquid, paused its attack momentarily. Taking advantage of its hesitation, I quickly withdrew, putting some distance between us. SSSSSS. The creature shook its head irritably, as if annoyed. Perhaps it was boasting a carapace with a hardness surpassing that of diamonds, as the acidic fungus couldn't penetrate it at all. The creature, having spat out the green liquid, growled at me. It had begun to be wary of me as new abilities continued to emerge from me. While the creature was on guard, I examined the area I had been targeting all along. I swung my pincers and slashed with the blade under its jaw, finding plenty of cracks in its ventral carapace. Preparation is complete. There was only one thing left to do. Wait. SSSSS. GRRRRRRR. The creature, still fixating its tendrils on me while being cautious, moved again. Like a train speeding on rails, it charged towards me on the icy ground. Just before colliding with the creature, I exerted force on the tail tip and the legs in my lower body. My body shot upwards like a spring towards the ceiling, and the surface of my pincers grazed the creature's jaw as we passed each other. Having narrowly avoided the ice horror's charge, I landed on its back. Utilizing my remaining combat arms and corroded tentacles, I firmly grasped the creature's carapace, engaging in a rodeo-like struggle. SSSSSSS. The creature, displeased with me being on its back, writhed violently. However, I was already firmly attached to its body. It couldn't shake me off as easily as it intended. While the creature thrashed about, I swung the blade under its jaw and the arms on its back relentlessly. With each swishing sound of the wind, more wounds appeared on the creature's carapace. Sa! Finally, unable to bear it any longer, the creature roared loudly and leapt up. Just like I had leapt upward, the creature also exerted force on its lower body and legs, lifting its body. With a single leap, the creature soared up to the ceiling of this huge underground space. As its back collided with the ceiling, I, sandwiched in between, found myself in a situation akin to being caught in a vice. Gruck. Crack. The immense pain coursing through my entire body inadvertently caused me to lose strength. The rear carapace, due to the impact, had broken at the back, and the carapaces on the back and chest had also been severely cracked. One more hit, and it's dangerous. As the creature slammed into the ceiling and landed on the ground, I leapt off its back. The creature, as if asking where I was fleeing, opened its jaws wide and snapped at my tail. But as soon as it bit down, the spikes and teeth inside its jaws pierced into my body. It was as if it intended to swallow me whole. Instead of striking its jaws, I activated the thorn-barbed tail hidden inside my pincers. The pincers opened slightly, and the thorns inside poured out into the creature's throat. SSSSSS. Just like me, to a creature wielding neurotoxins as weapons, a venom attack was meaningless. However, anyone would feel discomfort with fish spines lodged in their throat. The ice horror spat me out with a growl. The tip of my tail, which had entered the creature's body for a short time, was severely damaged. Definitely strong. This creature boasted tremendous combat power, fearing it might not be an apex organism. If it were a black Gagon or a sea demon, I would already have suffered 2 or 3 fatal injuries. Sao! The creature roared shortly and swiftly moved its legs, approaching me. This time, instead of avoiding, I rushed towards the creature. Like males locking horns to establish dominance, we charged towards each other's heads. On the icy arena, the ice horror's jaws collided with my head carapace. Tremendous pressure pushed against my head. The head carapace, rarely damaged until now, shattered, and 3 out of 6 horns broke. If we fall here, it's over. I exerted all my strength in my lower body and tail to somehow not give way. As the two mighty forces struggled to overpower each other, the ground could no longer bear it and collapsed. At that moment, I sharply lowered my head. As we struggled, the creature, unable to hit my head due to my movement, inevitably directed its force towards it. The creature's jaws smashed my rear head carapace and swept over my dorsal carapace. 2 of my arm carapaces broke completely due to the impact. Indescribable pain pierced through my entire being. I almost lost consciousness from the excruciating agony, but thanks to the pain reduction trait, I managed to endure somehow. Now, I twisted my head to the left. Instantly, the bone blade under my jaw stood upright. The target of the bone blade was the creature's abdomen passing swiftly above me. 2 of the blades on my right side protruded forward, slashing the creature's abdomen heavily. SSSS. Broken. Ugh. Before I could even revel in the success of the attack, I tumbled onto the collapsed floor. The enraged creature swung its tail at me. I tried to get up again, but the creature's jaws were right next to me. A huge jaw, split into 4 parts, spread open like a flower. As the jaws closed, my head and upper body would be finished. Trying to minimize the damage as much as possible, I crouched down, but the creature suddenly stopped moving. It was a fleeting moment, but enough for me to dodge. As I withdrew my upper body, the creature's jaws closed immediately. I realized the familiar movements of a being on the verge of collapse on the other side of the partially collapsed passage. It's here. Then, rocks and ice fragments that filled the passage floated up. They turned into projectiles and rained down on the ice horror's carapace and tail. SSSSS. Startled by the sudden attack, the creature turned its head abruptly. Beyond the darkened passage, 3 creatures revealed themselves. As expected. You held on well? A griffin wolf holding the divine specter. Big adult large? Snake. Very. Giant. A green Gagon expressing astonishment at the sight of me and the ice horror. This naughty little creature. Can't just let someone bother the big baby in peace. I'll give it a good scolding. A lot of it. And there it was, the 10-meter-tall sea demon, menacingly waving its numerous tentacles and fins. After what seemed like an eternity, reinforcements had finally arrived. Chapter 173. What now? The intruder seemed confused by the sudden intrusion. He must have been puzzled as to why he had missed this. The reason was simple. I've distracted him. Since he realized that I was not an easy opponent, he poured all his senses into me. If I had hesitated or fought him from a distance, he would have had room to maneuver. In that case, he would have quickly noticed the kids coming. Ice horrors possess extraordinary physical abilities, but their essence lies in being ambush predators. If they judge it difficult to control the environmental conditions, they will retreat immediately. But we can't let that happen. We need him. I need his mind, the mother of the sky needs his heart, and even his flesh for the others. We'll catch him here. As I growled, he alternated his gaze between me and number 26. Among the enemies present here, I am the most threatening to him. After all, I shattered his armor with my bare hands. But his instincts suggest another answer. He sensed the presence of a superior predator, a sea demon, higher than the ice horror. Number 26 tends to suppress psychic powers emanating from its body to accommodate the sensitive AHA. If I hadn't been injured, it would still be hiding. Are you properly angry? Numerous eyes flowed like water over number 26's body. The pupils, imbued with the abyssal terror characteristic, glared at the ice horror. A powerful psychic power emanated from its body, dyed a shade close to purple-pink, filling the space with intensity. Fortunately, the psychic power doesn't flow outward beyond space. I suppose it's controlling it to avoid Gagon's notice. In summary, number 26 is currently in a state of cold fury. But that's even scarier. The ice horror seemed confused about where to focus due to the psychic power. It stumbled about aimlessly, as if representing its master's consciousness. It would be troublesome if his attention shifted elsewhere. I rose to my feet with unbroken combat arms and let out a thunderous roar. Roar! My roar echoed far beyond the chamber. Ice shards and stone fragments around me flew into the air from the shockwave. Startled by the power contained in my roar, the ice horror twitched its tentacles. Soa! Roar! The ice horror roared loudly, just like me. Ignoring number 26, it rushed towards me. I, too, charged towards it, pounding the ground with each stride. Leaving traces on the shattered ice floor, we charged towards each other. As we clashed again, the chamber trembled once more. Crack! Both my combat arms and dorsal arms are broken, and my head armor is shattered. Energy is being consumed to heal the broken bones, so I don't feel as powerful as before. Meanwhile, he shows no sign of fatigue and continues to demonstrate his strength. Should I call him an apex monster just based on his sheer specs? Well, that's preferable. He's a cunning predator. He wouldn't consider fleeing when faced with an opponent he can handle comfortably. While the enemy is off guard, we can diligently entangle him. While I'm holding on to him, the kids moved. Transformed into her griffin form, the mother of the sky ascended onto Adha's back, holding the divine specter. Despite the dense darkness, Adha carried her swiftly and soared over the ice horrors back in the blink of an eye. As Adha flew, almost touching the ice horror's carapace, the mother of the sky extended her spear to strike his back. Perhaps due to the added thrust from the high-speed flight, thin wounds were left on his carapace. SSS. As we struggled in combat, the annoyed ice horror hissed as it suffered an attack. Its tail moved to get rid of the annoying intruder. Despite being in an underground space devoid of any light, the incredibly developed auxiliary organs revealed its presence. The tail, rising to strike Adha, looked like a massive barrier. Riding Adha like a mythical hero fighting mythical beasts, the mother of the sky and Adha skillfully evaded the ice horror's tail. Thanks to Adha's improved flying abilities, they effortlessly maneuvered even in the relatively narrow underground space. The mother of the sky focused solely on thrusting her spear, while Adha evaded the flying tail and body. While the two were coordinating their attacks, number 26 also prepared its assault. It waved the tentacles protruding from her body like a conductor's baton. Immediately, debris scattered across the chamber floor. The sea demon's unique technique, Demon Crash, had been activated. The shards permeated with psychic power now became projectiles for her psychic cannon. Some of the debris floating in the air shot out like bullets, hitting the ice horror's torso. SSS. The ice horror seemed unsure where to focus. As his attention dispersed, the force behind his jaw, pressing against me, slightly diminished. Good. Seizing the opportunity, I exerted force on the tentacles ensnaring his jaw and head. For the first time since the fight began, he staggered backward. SS. He seemed taken aback and failed to respond properly. I pushed harder, forcing him back. Due to the uneven floor from the collapsing ground, his body tilted significantly. As a result, the broken carapace I had exposed was prominently exposed. As the startled ice horror tried to regain his footing, his body froze in place. Unbeknownst to him, a mesh of psychic power spanning hundreds of meters entangled his frame. The one who cast the net was number 26. Once again, it had cast restraint. ZZZ, now. Hearing my shout, Adha swooped in at terrifying speed. The Mother of the Sky, atop him, thrust her spear forcefully. The sharp tip of the spear pierced deep into the broken carapace's interior. Without any resistance, the spear plunged deep inside his body. The ice horror, impaled by the divine specter, screamed in agony, thrashing wildly. With a massive body easily surpassing 100 meters, his rampage shook not only the chamber but the entire underground space. ZZZZZ, watch out. Got it. The ice horror's body and tail bounced through the air like a roller coaster track, while Adha performed aerial acrobatics, navigating between them. Not enough yet. Due to his immense size, even driving the divine specter all the way to the hilt didn't inflict fatal wounds. I climbed atop him, causing havoc on the collapsed floor. Then, I widened my jaws into a split to bite into the broken carapace. SSS. The creature, writhing in pain as if being salted, quickly sensed my intent and swiftly flipped its body. As a result, my attack missed. Instead of soft flesh, I bit into the very tough flank carapace. TCH. The teeth that could chew through battleship hulls merely collided helplessly with the ice horror's carapace. Experiencing my teeth break for the first time since arriving in this world, I inwardly cursed. SSS. Furthermore, the creature now realized what I was aiming for with this attack. To conceal its weakness, it twisted its body to continuously target the wounded area. Despite Adha flying around and unleashing purple lightning, the fastest among us, it was futile. He's the kind who barely scratches, even after taking my psychic breath head-on. With lesser power than that, purple lightning couldn't harm him. Tough. Watch out, little one. Move aside. Seeing this, number 26 exerted itself again. The psychic power emanating from its body materialized and glowed. Then, debris floating in the air gathered in front of number 26, slowly rotating. Understanding what he was up to, I firmly restrained the ice horror with all my corroding tentacles and combat arms. SSSSS. GRRRR. It seemed that he, too, thought he needed to quickly deal with me and leave this place. His thick, elongated body wrapped around me. The collision between his carapace and my composite scales sparked flames. He's much stronger than me. If he decided to crush me, I wouldn't last long. As evidence, the message pain nullification repeatedly appeared before my eyes. Enduring the pain with the characteristic effect, I seized one broken dorsal arm with a corroding tentacle. Then, I tore it off. Ugh! The pain, incomparable to when it broke, pierced the inside of my head. I hadn't gone mad and torn off my own arm. The dorsal arm, resembling a crow's foreleg, had the sharpest bone blade from my body attached to it. With all the bones broken, the dorsal arm couldn't move. But I intended to use it as a weapon. This should do. I received the broken dorsal arm torn off by the corroding tentacle with my combat arm. Then, I swung it like an axe, striking down on the ice horror's weakness. SSSSS. The ice horror screamed as my bone blades sank into it, even though the divine specter had already pierced it. Strong predators, accustomed to trampling over others, often couldn't bear their own pain. The ice horror was no exception. Its grip on me weakened. Trying to distance itself from me to hide its weakness, the ice horror, now struggling, faced another weapon I had concealed. The 5 faces on my head carapace opened their mouths simultaneously. Ultrasonic waves capable of paralyzing any foe poured forth from the mouths of the anthropomorphic entities aimed at the ice horror. SSS. The creature, properly struck by the paralysis waves on its head, ceased its movements. Almost simultaneously, number 26's weapon completed its firing sequence. ZZZ, now. Got it. A psychic drill made by mixing psychic power and large chunks of ice tore through the air, heading towards the broken carapace of the ice horror, our carefully crafted weakness. Pure psychic power and ice fragments began tearing the creature's flesh apart. SSSSSS. The destructive power of the psychic drill, made by number 26, or rather, the sea demon, was remarkable. It shredded the internal bones and flesh within the carapace, and the organs were spun out and pulled out almost to the point of extraction. The creature screamed in agony as its organs were shredded. But that was the limit. Although the psychic drill rotated with enough force to tear the creature apart, destroying its carapace was beyond it. After greatly expanding the wounded area, the psychic power that formed the drill scattered into the air. I'm drained. Little adult. Danger. Number 26's body, having consumed excessive psychic power, shrunk to a size of 50 centimeters, as it did when resting on my head, and Adha placed her on his back. SSS. The ice horror's antennae trembled uneasily. How many predators like it had suffered such fatal injuries? Probably none since infancy. Realizing it couldn't go on any longer, the creature tried to burrow into the ground. Where do you think you're going? While coming was at its whim, leaving wasn't. I grabbed and dragged the creature from behind as it attempted to flee. GRRRRR. SSS. Then, I pressed my head against its wound. The warm blood seeped into my closed mouth. Using my combat arms and corroding tentacles, I widened the creature's wound, then pushed my head even deeper. With the horns on my head and the bone blades under my jaw, I rummaged through the creature's insides. In an attempt to get rid of me, the creature bit my tail with its jaws. The more it struggled, the tighter I held onto its gaping wound. The pincers at the end of my tail, the carapace and legs attached to it, were being torn off by the creature's jaws, but I didn't give up. How long has it been? As I pushed through what felt like a solid wall, the cold air enveloped my head. The moment I realized I had completely pierced through the creature's body, its death roars echoed in my ears. SSS. SSS. S. The ice horror, who might have lived for hundreds, if not thousands of years, let out a subdued cry as if feeling unjust and then collapsed.